Welcome, one and all, to the Sunday show after dark. I'm your host, Forrest Valkai, and I am joined today by the beautiful and talented John Gleason. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Had a pretty full day today. Watched a few movies with the wife earlier, and now I'm here with y'all. So, been awesome.
I drove down to OKC and distributed 1,000 Easter eggs to all my nieces and nephews, and a bunch of booze to all of my in-laws, and then drove back up here to Tulsa just in time for this show. As we begin, really quickly, I just want to give a special shout out. It is Easter. It's 420 blaze it, 420 raise it. He is raised, and it is Easter, and so today I want to give a special shout out to a large portion of our Christian audience. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Obviously we're not Christians here, but I have read the Bible, and I do pay attention to the words of Jesus in here. And I've made no secret that I'm not a fan of a lot of what Jesus was about, but I have taken some ample notes on the things that he said about loving your enemies, loving the poor, loving the oppressed, loving immigrants, healing the sick for free, giving clothes to the naked and food to the hungry and homes to the homeless, all for free, selling all of your possessions and giving everything you own to the poor and needy, only following him. The only people that Jesus consistently, over and over and over, says to be distrustful of and disdainful of are the rich and the powerful and the hypocrites. Matthew and John are specifically very, very specific about this. The hypocrites who pray outwardly but do not actually follow his teachings. And we can think of a few of those. People like, say, for example, the president, who is a billionaire. Remember that whole part about fitting a camel through the eye of a needle and all that stuff, who has cheated on every single one of his many wives. The whole thing about how all sins are equal in the eyes of the Lord and all that stuff, who is deporting people without due process and ignoring the Supreme Court's unanimous decision to bring Kilmara Brigger Garcia home, violating the Constitution, going against his authority, his power as president. And also, of course, all the people out there, including some of our own fans, not even the Christians, but some of the people in our comment sections who are still supporting Israel, who has bombed every single Christian church in Gaza multiple times, as well as bombing Christian churches in the West Bank and Christian churches in Lebanon. So that's, for the Christians out there, and also for our fans who, think it's conveniently not that important that they have killed over 50,000 people in just this particular campaign, this part of their ongoing genocide, most of those people being women and children. So today, as we all celebrate Easter in our own special ways, I hope to give a very special greeting, a very special shout out to all the Christians out there that are having a great time today, pretending to give a fuck about Jesus, pretending to like Jesus, pretending to be Christian. You get to play Christian for a day. You get to go to church, and you get to hide little eggs, and you get to celebrate with your families and hug your kids real tight while ignoring all of the orphans in Palestine that you are supporting the murder of their families with your tax dollars and your ongoing support and your voting. And also the monster in office, the rapist, racist, fascist loser who is currently running our country, who goes against everything that your God stands for, except for all the parts of the Bible where he's very, very, very much into his own dick and is a megalomaniacal maniac. Those parts Trump embodies quite well. But all that stuff about being a lamb and about being as wise as serpents and as innocent as doves and being kind to strangers and helping the poor and the oppressed and understanding people of different places and dusting your feet on the way out if people don't want you and receive all that stuff, fuck all that, right? Jesus was just kidding about all that, because we all fucking know that if a brown-skinned Palestinian socialist showed up today and told you to love your enemies and take care of the sick and the needy and give people free healthcare and free housing, you'd fucking crucify him again. You'd send him to El Salvador to rot, just like you have with so many innocent people, no matter what the Supreme Court fucking says. So, hooray to all of you. Happy fucking Easter. That's how I just want to start the show on that fucking note. Yeah, happy Zombie Day. What a time to celebrate. By the by, we get, every time I bring up Palestine, we still get comments from our own audience. That's why I made sure to mention that we still have got comments from our own audience. Oh, call the fuck in. We'll talk about what the word genocide what the word genocide means. We've got the number on the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288. That number is for anybody out there who is a theist. If you believe in gods or demons or devils or angels or supernatural forces, ghosts, spirits, whatever, and you want to talk about it, or if you are what I would call a science denier of any kind, if you want to take issue with that phrasing, or if you'd like to talk a little bit about science, if you were a creationist or an anti-vaxxer, or you're anti-GMO, or you're anti-trans, or you're anti-round earth, or whatever it may be, this show is for anybody who wants to call in and have a serious conversation with some serious skeptics, people who actually talk and think and work on this stuff for a living. This show is for you. And that number on the bottom of the screen again, 720-619-2288. Lines are already actually full at this moment, but we will continue taking calls and they will open up again and again. So stay tuned throughout the show. Every time you hear us hang out with somebody, try that line again if you haven't gotten in yet. Because the lines are kind of flowing right now. We got a bunch of people in the call-in screw. We've got people in the screening room, and they just kind of keep bopping around. We've yet to have somebody make it all the way up to the actual host queue so we can talk to them. We just got people calling in and hanging up, trying to get in. So with that, while we wait, John, amigo mio, what are you working on in your life, man? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I've got actually, as part of my job this week, I've actually got some AI training that they're sending me to. And so it's like learning about AI systems and large language models and everything like that. So I don't know what we're supposed to learn, but it was highly suggested that I take it. So like 3 days of my week, it's going to be full up with that. And then I'm on vacation. We're going out to, we're flying out to Las Vegas, and then we're doing sort of a road trip out in that area, and we're just hitting up like a whole bunch of the federal and state parks. It might just be all federal parks, but we're hitting up all those.
Right on. That's fantastic. You know, it's crazy to me. I don't know. I'm, as you know, I don't know anything about software engineering or any of those, anything like that. But I was recently at a conference with a bunch of just sciencey people from all over the place who were giving talks and all this, and there were several people there. They didn't talk about it. They were talking about like the future of education and stuff. But there were several people there who were speakers that were AI researchers. They were doing research in AI. And I'm like, what? I don't actually know what that would even look like. Like, what would that be to research AI? Like, is it like developing the technology? Is it like figure out what it can do? Like, what would someone at a professional PhD level, at a research level, be doing with AI? What is that? Do you have any insight for me on what that would look like?
Yeah, so my guess would be making the models better, like developing better models that can learn better, that learn in different ways. And then there's, obviously doing research on existing models or existing technology to see what it's actually capable of and everything, because AI is a real like sort of developing sort of front on the software engineering and computer engineering sort of I'm trying to think of the word portion of software engineering and engineering in general. But, I mean, we've had artificial intelligence, for a while. I mean, if you think about video games where you're playing against an AI character, I mean, we've had versions of it for a while. It's just that here lately, they've been more conversation type models, these large language models. And so it's, instead of it being, built for a specific purpose, it's built generalized so that you can interact with it, and it'll do like data mining and everything. I really do like the AI models that are coming out, and I really don't think that it's going to be that like big of a threat necessarily, at least not as they exist now, just because they're great at like mining data. Like if you have a question about how something works or how to do something, it can definitely search the web and, really drill down and give you the information that you need, instead of you like sifting through, the first page of Google or something like that and doing all of the links there. It can just automatically search all that stuff and kind of give you the information that you need. That's what I really like it for. And as an engineer, I really like the fact that I can ask it to make whatever I'm writing sound better because I suck at writing shit.
No, I do the same. So I understand why. I know AI, especially like, ChatGPT and all these, they take a tremendous amount of resources. And so like, it's, I know that they're bad for the environment to use them crazily. So I try not to use them like for every little thing, or just like to come up. Like, sometimes if I have trouble coming with ideas, I might say like, throw in some thoughts that I can kind of work with. I make sure if I'm going to use AI, it is to like, how do you say, like to clean up what I've already written. I don't use AI for anything from scratch. I will write something and make something, and then I will put it into ChatGPT sometimes and be like, hey, how could this be improved? What are some, if I make this argument this way, what are some ways that you would argue against it that I could account for? You know what I mean? Just like helping me get outside of my own head. And that's something that, like, I don't know if this is common either for anybody, but like in the program that I'm in right now, like I've had multiple like at least 3 professors. That's the plan. Like, that's what we talk about. And they're like, okay, so you need to write a research proposal. Run it through ChatGPT to make sure it's decent before you give it to me, or something like that. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, is they want to make sure that we're not stupid and just messing something up. And so like kind of the lesson is always like the way that it is for us is always like, don't have ChatGPT do your homework. Do have ChatGPT proofread your homework, or double check it, or tell you what's wrong with it, or tell you if you missed anything stupid. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like, it seems to be the way that people are using it where I'm around. I don't know if that's common, but like, I love it for that reason specifically. Just if I can have something that can like give me a second set of eyeballs that are more technologically advanced, and then never fucking just copy paste from ChatGPT. Go back and re-edit it again and double check it again. If you see somebody using, I don't know what they're called. Like sometimes you split something with like a hyphen and it means somewhat similar to the same thing as like putting something in parentheses. But if it's actually that one just like super weird hyphen touches the words, you don't have a button for that on your keyboard. ChatGPT, absolutely. If I see that, I'm like, okay, you didn't write this. This is bullshit. You know what I mean? I'm immediately grumpy. I don't know,
yeah, man. I typically, if I'm having trouble explaining something, or like I'm explaining something, I'm writing to explain something, and it's just like really convoluted, I'll ask it, can you make this statement more concise? And so like I have it become more concise, and then I modify it how I need to.
Yeah, I do the same thing. If it's like, if something I'm uncomfortable with, like, can you give me a template for this? I'll then write it, put it back in there. Can you make this not terrible? And then I'll re-edit it the last time or something like that. That's like the most I'll do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We've got already lines are filling up. And we've got a new auto screen thing going on, a new auto screener. I don't understand how it's working. But I'm looking through the people in the call-in queue, and it sounds like it's just like listening to what they're saying and putting that into text until they get to the screening room. and somebody can. So it's very strange. So
right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So
if I can explain, so Jimmy was doing a podcast thing on his channel earlier, and so he probably set it to auto screen because they didn't have a screener. But we've got a screener now, but it still does the auto screen.
No, we
used
and I think used it on the Sunday show too.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool. My bad.
Well, there you go. There you go. So if you're calling in, get ready for that, whatever that's going to be like. It sounds like for a lot of people that are calling in, it's uncomfortable by what I'm reading on some of these. But do call in, and then our human screener will get to you soonly. Also, really quickly, I've got the schedule for this week, and I've got things marked out. What's going on with that? Why are these X'd out?
The yellow ones are the shows.
Okay, cool. So they're not X'd out; they're just highlighted. Well, whatever. Tomorrow we've got let's see here. We've got Skeptalk with Paul. Then on Tuesday, the 22nd, we've got Skeptical Heretic and Promise running Chewed Gum. That sounds awesome. I'm so happy that Skeptical Heretic's on a home on this channel. That's fantastic. The Hang Up is then on Wednesday with Matt and Promise. Then we've got Dr. Ben and Josie Caballero on TACIS on Thursday. Looping all the way back around to next Sunday, where we've got the Sunday show with Matt and Seth. And then me and Eric, Skeptics and Scoundrels, on the Sunday show after dark. So stay tuned for all those shows. They're coming at you whether you want it or not. So do tune in, because you have no choice. That's what you have to do. With that, are you ready to jump right in? Because we've now got people actually through the thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Let's do it.
Sweet. We've still got at least one line open, so if you're a theist or a creationist or whatever, please do call in, and we'll start working through these calls and opening up more spots for you. Let's start by talking to Gary, pronouns he, him, calling in from Funky Lorax. Sounds radical. And this is what it says on the screen. It says, calling about myth versus reality, or should I say myth versus morality, which is more real? Don't know what that means. Gary, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How are you doing today? Gary, are you there? Gary, can you hear us? Oh, Gary, you are our first call of the day. You are our first atheist, our first theist. And I would love to talk to you, but it doesn't sound like it's going to work out. I'm going to put you back in the queue, Gary. If you can hear us, we're not hanging up. We're just going to put you back in the queue and take your call next and see what happens. Let's talk instead to Roberts, pronouns he, him, calling in from Camel Acne, I love this. It just says, I'm calling to defend my faith. Wonderful. Hello, Roberts. You're on the line with Forrest and John. How are you doing today? Oh, come on. Roberts, can you hear us?
Hang on.
It sounds like we're having a tech issue behind the screen. And also the lower third says Mark. We don't know what's going on the Sunday show. We're having some issues, but we're trying to figure them out. Maybe it's the Easter time. Maybe they got raptured. Maybe that's what it is. Let's see what happens on the Sunday show after dark. Is this quality? Is this good entertainment for everybody out there? Y'all enjoying this? This is what you signed up for? Views through the roof right now. This is what the show is. Man.
So I took a cue from you, and this isn't a dry erase board, but it is one of those LCD writing pad things.
Oh, nice.
You can write on it and everything, and you can just erase it really easy.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I got one of those to start writing shit down.
I love that. Does it need a battery? Is it like a mechanical situation?
Oh yeah, it needs a battery. I mean, it's got a small little place for like one of those coin cells. So
right on. it's still this time where we're just sitting here. Let me tell you, y'all, we didn't plan for this. We don't know what's happening right now. Our tech wizard, Morgan, our producer, is currently trying to figure out why we can't talk to people. I'm sure there's some wire somewhere that some monkey has unplugged, and we're just waiting for that to not be a problem anymore. But eventually, we'll get there. In the meantime, I turn you over to the musical stylings of John Gleason, who has prepared for you a serenade, knowing that anything less than perfection in this moment would be an insult to both our channel and our audience. John, go.
Fuck around. Every now and then I get a little excited that you're gonna find out. Fuck around. Every now and then I get a little frustrated when we keep telling you the same shit every single fucking time. Turn around or fuck around and
ready to connect. Click connect to show now. Connected as the host. Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the call-in studio web interface.
Oh, man.
That and the robot at the same time fucking broke me. Oh, man. That's so stupid.
Roberts, can you hear us? Or can you speak?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I can.
Thank freaking Gilgamesh. Okay. Oh, I thought any part of that was going to have to go on literally any longer. I was so worried. Oh, man. Thank you for calling in, Roberts. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Oh, so much better now. So much better now. Okay. So you say that you're calling in to defend your faith. Can you please tell me what God you believe in that you're calling about?
Oh, yes. I believe in the Christian Bible. I believe that Jesus Christ is our Lord incarnate, the revelation of the Old Testament. Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior.
Okay, sick. Just for clarification, do you believe that the Bible is like 100% literally word for word true, or do you believe that it needs to be interpreted? Some part of it's poetic, some part of it needs to be like specific context. Do you think that any part of it at all is inaccurate or unreliable? Like, what's your thoughts on the Bible as far as we know?
Okay, well, as we know, it is a translation from a whole different language with different alphabet and numbers. So it's not a perfect translation, but it's reliable. Okay. It's reliable because. All
right, sweet. And so, like, does that account for like the parts where it's contradictory? Because there's lots of places in the Bible where it contradicts another part of the Bible, right? Where one verse doesn't match up to another one. Is that what is like? Is that how you account for that, or are you talking about a different thing entirely with that?
Yeah. So what happens is like they definitely are some words that are mistranslated, right? But they're not that many. Like they're very few. Now, in a lot of poems, when I first started reading the Bible, I thought there was contradiction. But as I began to really study it deeper, I realized that there were no contradictions. I was just perceiving it that way.
Okay. And then one last question really quick before we jump in is, do you believe that the Bible as it is, like mistranslations, everything, if I just am to read the Bible as plain text right now, do you believe that the Bible is an accurate representation of the character of God? That the Bible accurately represents who God is, what God wants, how God behaves, the history of God, all those things. Is that accurately represented in the Bible?
Yes, it's good. It's good enough. Yes.
Okay. So when the God of the Bible does and says and commands horrible shit, you think that is just my opinion that it's horrible, but it is accurate, that is actually true. Everything that the Bible says about God and Jesus, as far as their actions and their beliefs and their behaviors, those are all true things.
Yes, everything is true. Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm just making sure I understand. So contradictions in the Bible are accounted for by saying that they are mistranslations, and the character of God in the Bible is accurate and complete.
Yes, okay. I think it's awesome.
Sweet. John, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Well, yeah. So I guess I can start. So you're wanting to defend your faith. What about the Christian God, or what evidence do you have for the Christian God specifically that's the one that exists?
On Matthew chapter 24, verse 14. Would you guys like to pull it up, or you want me to just tell you what it is?
I can get it right here.
I mean,
Matthew 24, you said? Matthew 24:14?
Yes, that's correct.
The gospel of the kingdom shall be preached to all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then the end shall come.
Yes, that's correct.
How is this evidence?
Well, he's getting there. What does that mean?
I mean, it means what it means. I mean, can you guys tell me what you understand from that before I even try to put any words in it?
What it sounds like to me is that, yeah, it sounds to me like Christianity. You're right. I apologize for questioning you. It sounds to me like it's saying that Christianity will be spread all around the world, that everybody in the world will hear about Jesus, and as soon as that happens, Armageddon will begin, and the book of Revelation will start to come to pass.
That's correct. You just left out the little detail where it says, plus it will be as a witness. Like, I'm making the claim right now, 2,000 years ago, and it's come to pass today.
Has it come to pass?
That's one.
Well, so Roberts, have you heard of Sentinel Island?
North Sentinel, yeah.
Have you heard of North Sentinel Island? Oh, no, okay. Well, see, there was this not mercenary. There was this
missionary.
Missionary. Sorry, yes, missionary. There was a missionary that went out to North Sentinel Island to spread the gospel to him, and they threw spears into his chest and killed him before he could spread the news of Jesus to them. So they don't know about Jesus yet. So I guess that means that it hasn't come to pass, right?
Well, I mean, of course, it hasn't ended. It says when it comes to pass that the world completely will hear about it, then will be the end. Now,
okay, sorry. Forrest, can you check me on this? Did he not say that this has come to pass, and that proves the Bible in some kind of way?
He absolutely did. And what I don't understand is, even what John is rightly bringing up here is there are people in the world who have not heard of Jesus. There are whole communities of people who have not. And even if that wasn't the case, every single time a baby is born, that kid hasn't heard of Jesus yet. So it doesn't sound like it's possible for every single person in the world to have heard about Jesus. And I'm trying to understand what you're talking about here. Are you saying that every single human being ever, period, in the world right now alive has to hear about Jesus before Armageddon happens? Are you saying that everybody has to accept Jesus before Armageddon happens? What is the prediction that you're saying has come true?
Nobody has to know. There will be many that will not accept it. It's just the fact that they were told, it was fair for them to hear it first, and then they made the choice not to do it. Now, from you guys' perspective, it's true that it hasn't been preached throughout the whole world, or else it will be ending today. Today, the world will be end. If today, everybody would have heard it, today it would be end. But we're not ending today, so it hasn't been preached. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Of the portion of the world, how much Christianity has been spread throughout the world compared to where it hasn't been preached yet? What percentage can you compare that?
How does this matter?
I couldn't give you a number off the top of my head, but I imagine that quite a bit of the world has heard about Christianity. It is one of the top most popular religions out there. But that's still not everybody. And that's what I'm trying to understand. When you read this passage and it says that the gospel will be preached to all the world and witnessed to all nations, it's probably true that damn near every single nation has at least one person in it that's heard of this. It's probably true that by percentage, the vast majority of the world has heard of this. So I want to know how far you're stretching this. Do you mean that literally every single living person has heard of Jesus? Or do you mean just by and large, the vast majority of the planet is on the same page about what this guy is? By
and large, most of the world has heard about Christianity, and we are very we're getting very, very close to a complete mission. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to the next verse. Let's move on to the next verse. What about this one? What do you guys think about this one? Job, chapter 26, verse 7 and 8.
Job, you said?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, let me double check. Job is at the end of the Old Testament, if I remember correctly, or near it. Job. Man, Job is deep in there. I was wrong. Job's before Psalms and shit. What chapter you say?
Chapter 26.
Chapter 26, verse what?
Verse 7 and 8.
He stretches out the north over the empty space and hangeth the earth upon nothing. He binds up the water in thick clouds, and the cloud is not rent under them. And he goes on to say a bunch of other stuff about who like he has to do.
Just those two verses is enough for now.
Well, okay, what is this supposed to tell me about anything? It sounds like he's talking about God.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. You guys. I thought you guys were familiar with this, but okay, I'll explain it to you. So this is.
Oh no! I'm pulling two random verses out of context. I'm trying to go back and read and like see who the fuck is speaking about what.
Okay. Yeah. I just didn't want to explain it too much because where's the Bible? The Bible is the Word of God.
No, okay. Look, I don't understand what the purpose of these like random ass Bible verses are supposed to be proof of. Like, are you saying that people at the time that Job was written didn't know about, water, like the clouds being comprised of water, and like the other two things, that he spreads the northern skies over empty space. I don't even, in a pragmatic sense, I don't know what that means. In a poetic or allegorical sense, I can understand that, but like, and he suspends the earth over nothing. Like, I don't know how to pragmatically understand that. Yeah, so like, I don't know what you're trying to prove here, other than your God's a dipshit.
Okay, I'm gonna explain what my point of view. Okay, when it says he spreads out the skies over empty space, you guys know that the space is stretching, right? So when he says stretching, the heavens are stretching, and then it says that he hangs the earth over nothing, meaning that if you could see the earth from the point of view, if you can see the earth, you will see just suspended in nothing. Nothing is holding it. And we know that very well. Today it's common knowledge for us that we know that we have technology just in this last day.
No, it's not. But it's not hanging. No, it's not suspended though.
Yeah, this is what it's sounding a lot like, because like I'm flipping through Job here and I'm remembering this book, and Job is a lesson in shitty ass apologetics, because all this stuff happens to Job, and most of the book, as I'm scrolling through and looking through my notes, most of the book is him having a conversation with his friends about why God has done these terrible things to him, and his friends giving excuses for God. Zophar says that if anything, God should be punishing us more. Bildad says, well, your kids were probably sinners, and that's why this is happening to you. Eliphi, whoever the fuck, I can't read my own handwriting here, says, don't ask questions. Questions are undermining God's authority. And then the end of this book, after Job defends himself and says, hey, I was a good person, I was misrepresented and all this stuff, the whole last section that I have highlighted in yellow here is God just chastising him and saying, I'm big and strong and I can do whatever the fuck I want. Who are you to question me? And then Job dies. And that's the book. And so what you've got here is one tiny section of this god-awful fucking book that is just about injustice and stupidity and God swinging his almighty dick around to impress Satan. And you've got this one thing where they're talking about space stretching or whatever the fuck. And I guarantee you 100 years ago, that meant something very, very, very different to every Christian who read it. And now you're able to interpret it because of the successes of science. You're able to interpret it as something else. And it sounds an awful lot the same way as when people talk about how, the Bible talks about things being made of small things, and that actually means atoms. And it's like, no, what you are doing is taking Iron Age poetry and squinting at it and turning your head to the side and thinking real hard and coming up with something that kind of almost sort of sounds like science. And that's simply not useful or necessary. Like, it doesn't make your faith any more credible, and it doesn't make this book any less repugnant.
Okay, look. Let's check out Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 12.
So before we go to the next scripture, Roberts, can you address what the point of what I just said is that, like, this book sucks. And if you find a random verse that sounds like some random thing in the world today, that is inevitably your interpretation of what that means, which is different than the millions of Christians who came before you. So you are just putting a modern spin on a Bronze Age sex manual. And that doesn't really do anything for us. I'd rather have something concrete that I can actually go out and test rather than saying this thing, which you admitted was a mistranslated thing full of contradictions and errors, which you account for by saying they're mistranslations. I can say that those things you're pointing out are actually mistranslations that are now made to sound a little bit more accurate because they've been translated that way. And they weren't that way originally. And we're having no progress in this conversation. So rather than jumping to the next boring part of this shitty book, can you tell me, like, why do you personally in your life believe? I'm very confident in my assumption that you do not believe in Jesus because you read some part of the Bible that sounds kind of like space stretching.
I believe because I read the whole book.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what, though.
So
fantastic.
What part of the book means something to you about why Jesus is real?
Because he told the future. He predicted the future. He predicted this moment right here.
Where?
Where
does it say? Where does
now.
It say two fucking idiots are going to have a call-in show talking about, God and stuff?
2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 to 4.
Let me see. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 through 4. Let's see if this is any more useful. 2 Timothy is the one that says that women can't have authority or teachers, right? 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 1 through 4. I charge thee, therefore, before God. Well, I'm reading the thing you said to read. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 1 through 4. I charge thee, therefore, before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word. Be instant in season, out of season, reprove, rebuke, exhort, with all long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts they shall heap unto themselves teachers, having itching ears. And they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and they shall be turned unto fables. So you just described every single cult doctrine that has ever been written ever. You know that I'm right when people say that I'm wrong. The more people that turn away from me proves my prophecy that people will turn away from me. That's how you know to believe me. Give me money. You just explained why people believed in Ruby Ridge, why people believed at fucking in Mormonism, why people believe in Jehovah's Witnesses, why people believe in all these different things. It's the same exact thing. I am telling you this truth, and I prophesize that people will say that this truth is bullshit, and that's how you know that I'm right. You haven't said anything useful to me at all.
Okay, so I think that right here, what you just read, that's you right there, and this other gentleman.
Right.
And then I am in verse 5. Look, go to verse 5.
I've had that exact conversation with 1,000 other Christians. And here's the thing, dude, is that there's 40,000 denominations of Christianity. Many of them would use these 4 verses against each other, much less me. So, like, what are we doing? I guarantee you in the 2,000 years since Jesus was around, there have been people that fell in this category more often than not. So has this been true for 2,000 years, or is it just now true today? Because if it's been true for 2,000 years, it's not a good prophecy. It's just a truism.
Okay, it's true for 2,000 years. Look, if you read it, and
so then it's a shitty prophecy.
Look, read Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 8 to 10.
Why am I gonna, dude, Roberts? why am I going to keep I've read the damn book, dude. Why am I going to keep reading chapter after chapter after chapter that says the same dumb thing, which is not good prophecy? That's the thing. If the book said
a question.
Yes, and you gave me a terrible answer. If the Bible said that on 4/20/2025 some skinny idiot is going to get on the internet and argue about Jesus, then yeah, all right, cool. That's something. But when it says stuff like there will be wars and rumors of wars, that's always true. When it says people won't believe, that's always true.
Okay, the skinny stuff on the internet. Okay, that's Daniel chapter 12 verse 4.
Oh my
Daniel
God.
chapter 12 verse 4. Check it out.
No, I've got one for you. I know you're throwing out verses.
I think you guys are trying to
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. No. I don't give a shit about your verses.
It's good news, guys. Good news.
So I'm going to mute you now because now I have a verse that I want to throw out. And since you've been throwing out verses left, right, and center like you're a fucking AK-47, I want to give you a verse, and I'm going to allow you to come back on, and I want you to explain to me how this is accurate and correct to like history, physics. How does this comport with reality is what I want to know. So we're going to Joshua. Turn in your Bible that I know that you might have. Joshua 10, and it's going to be starting in verse 12, right, and going through to 14. Or 13. So it says, on the day when the Lord gave the Amorites over to the Israelites, Joshua spoke to the Lord, and he said in the sight of Israel, sun, stand still at Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, until the nation took vengeance on their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Jasher? The sun stopped in mid-heaven and did not hurry to set for about a whole day. So, in this section, it says that the sun literally stops in the middle of the sky, fucking midday. Mid-heaven is what it says. Midday, it stops for a period of 24 hours. There's a 24-hour sun in the middle of the Middle East. Okay? I'm going to bring you back on. Explain to me how that makes sense in reality. Go.
Okay. So, if you guys are aware that in NASA, when they were installing the first computers in the program of NASA, back around 70s or 80s, early 90s, there was a problem because the computer detected an anomaly on the coordinates and everything, the data that it was getting. Okay.
Roberts, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Roberts, this is not answering my question. You're not telling me how this makes practical sense in reality. Can you please start over and explain to me how Joshua chapter 10, verses 12 and 13 makes sense in reality?
Okay. They fixed this, and not the day NASA found this problem, and they actually have it in their record. If you check it, they have it exactly the same amount of time that is missing from the Bible, that the sun was not rotating, is recorded in the data of NASA. That's a fact. If you want to check it out,
no, that is not a fact. No, you know why this is not a fact? No, you know how I know this is not a fact and that's not what NASA actually found out? Because the sun doesn't actually, well, I don't know. I don't think that the sun actually rotates. We orbit around the sun. Also, the earth rotates around its axis, right? That is what causes the sun to move through the sky. The sun doesn't actually move, in as far as in our relative, local space. Right. It doesn't move. So
it moves around the galaxy, but that's not affecting us. Yes.
Right. Exactly. But we know that this could have never happened because that would require the Earth to stop spinning. It would also require the Earth to stop moving around the sun. How do you explain it? If you look up anywhere the effects of the Earth immediately coming to a halt, you're going to find that it has devastating effects. So there's no way that the Earth.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay, I have information for you guys. Search out NASA scientists find missing day. Look it up right now on the web.
No. I'm not looking up anything.
Missing day. Check it out. Check it out.
This isn't helpful. I would like you to please answer, Roberts. I would like you to please answer what has been asked of you rather than just telling us to go to the next thing to do your thinking for you. You gave us several verses from the Bible that you say prove your God. None of them were useful. You had the audacity to say that we were scared. I'm going to put you on mute because you can't stop interrupting. You had the audacity to tell us that we were scared to look up the next thing after we'd already looked up 4 damn things and given a direct answer to them. You have yet to answer a single thing that we've asked you. This is actually the first thing that we have given you as counter evidence to your claims, and you're dodging it. John asked you a very good question. In the Bible, it says that the sun stopped dead in the sky and didn't move for 24 hours. That would require the earth to stop turning, which would be impossible. It would be globally catastrophic. It would require an extreme crazy miracle. He is asking you to make account for that claim, because that's something way beyond a mistranslation. So, Roberts, will you please answer literally the first question that has been asked of you? How do you account for this part of the Bible?
Okay, the way I account for it is that if you go online and you search NASA finds missing day, it explains it all. By NASA, which site? Check it out.
Really?
Just go.
That's what you got?
Just check it out.
No.
NASA,
So, okay, listen. Here's why we're not going to check it out. Roberts, this is why we're not going to check that out, okay? Here's why. It's physically impossible for the sun to stop in the sky. It's literally impossible. That is just not how we understand things to work. I understand that you're working from a position that's magically based, and you think the sun magically stopped in the sky. But we have not seen any kind of magic that's actually been proven to actually happen in reality.
For fuck's sake. Sorry, John, while you were explaining why we're not going to look this up, which we fucking shouldn't have, but I did. I went ahead and just Googled NASA finds missing day. And you know what I found, Roberts? The top result that I found is from Answers in Genesis. Do you know who Answers in Genesis is?
No, I don't.
Answers in Genesis is a cult. They're a massive grifting organization that is selling their worldview that the Bible is 100% literally true. They're the people who run the Ark Museum and the Creation Museum and all these other things. Is run by Ken Ham. This is a absolute lunatic asylum full of people who believe that every word of the Bible is literally true, and their goal is to fight evolution and spread creationism. These people are a massive multi-million-dollar organization, an international organization, which is dedicated to proving that the Bible is real. And the first result I got when I looked up NASA finds missing day is an article from them about why this isn't true. Many Christians mistakenly claim that NASA scientists have confirmed the Bible by finding Joshua's missing day. Here's Dr. Tommy Mitchell explaining why this is another argument that Christians should not use. This is a persistent urban legend in Christianity that the NASA computers have confirmed biblical account of the long day found in Joshua. This argument is well-meaning but misguided, and it's a whole fucking article about why the shit you're saying is not accurate. These are people whose whole job is to prove the Bible is true and to argue that the Bible is reliable and that every word of it is absolutely true, and they are saying the shit you're saying is dumb and not real. What does that tell you about your argument, Roberts?
That there's an article that speaks against it, and there are hundreds that don't.
So it's just a matter of faith that you found one article that says that's true, and we found a different article that said it isn't true. So who are we to believe, right? Common fucking sense or some random thing that some random dude read on the internet?
Proof. And
to be clear, these people are saying in this article, they say that the sun did stand still. They say that did happen, but this is not a reason to believe that. So these are people that are on your side that say your argument sucks.
I don't know that people. I don't know those people. I don't know who they are. They're not on my side, obviously. Okay, I got more proof.
Are you
I
a
got
creationist?
And here I got, and just to be clear, here I've got a different one. This is from Snopes, so this is a secular organization here. Did NASA find a lost day in time? No, NASA scientists did not find a missing day, proving biblical accounts. And they go into where this rumor came from, why it's bullshit, why it doesn't make any sense. So here is again a secular website now. These are people that are not out to prove a Christian agenda and that are also comparing what you're saying to reality and finding that they don't comport. So you asked me to Google it. I did.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. I really do.
So now would you like to try answering some of the questions that we've been asking? Or that was the first one. Would you like to try to go through a couple more? Because so far, Roberts, every single thing you've posed to us, we have answered and accounted for. And we found it
I got a good
incredibly. Why didn't you start with the good one? Because this is number 5 that you've had that's shit.
I didn't want you guys to get shot by me,
Get shot? We do this every fucking week, dude.
We're not afraid of you or your Bible.
How about you answer this one for me? This is my question to you. You talked about the very beginning. The first thing that you brought up was that the Bible is true because the Bible says that the gospel will be spread all around the world, and it has so far been spread to most of the world. Do you think that the spreading of the Christian religion all around the world has more to do with the truth of the gospel and with the reliability of the Bible? Or do you think that it has more to do with the well-documented history of genocide, slaughter, and forced conversions done by Christians around the world, where they go into indigenous communities all over the planet and tell people convert or die, and they chop people's hands off and they steal people's children, and they go put people in the boarding schools and strip them of their culture, and they destroy families and communities and cultures and civilizations and force them to become Christians or die? We have very accurate, very detailed historical records of that. Do you think that is more reason why Christianity is spread? Or do you think it's just because God's so super powerful and the Bible's so real?
Okay, yeah. All these bad things that have happened, let's not disregard that, In Canada,
would love an answer to the question. Would love an answer to the question.
Yeah. Okay, here's my answer. Here's my answer to that. In the Bible, it says that there will be many, many, many coming in my name. There will fool many, And I think that's them. And you know who they are? They are written in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7.
Would love an actual just answer to the question, Roberts. My question was very simple. It was one or the other, and I would love you to just tell me which one you think is more responsible.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay, yeah, no, definitely is the Christian preaching, which is love, unity, you coming to God, to the knowledge of God. Yes, I think that's going to be the one, because.
So you think, just to be clear, the hundreds and hundreds of years of well-documented genocide, where Christians would go all around the world and slaughter innocent people, forcing them to convert, take away their culture, destroy their cultural symbols, icons, sacred places, everything, and force them to practice Christianity to the point where it became a cultural norm for them and they were fully indoctrinated. You don't think that is why Christianity has spread so far. You think that after all of that, everybody just decided the Bible's true as well, just by their own selves, just happenstance. The very words that you just used right now, and the argument and the words that you're using right now are written in Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 13, 12, and 16. I asked a question.
Mind blowing.
I would like you to answer it.
Oh, well, of course, look, people have to be forced. Like a lot of Jews were forced to convert to Christianity because they were going to be killed or kicked away from the land. And many people were forced to do that. That's a fact. Yeah, that's a fact. Including the Americans. The Americans came with Columbus and they brought the Catholic, the Catholic teachings, and they killed all the culture that they had with the Aztecs and the Mayans there, and they forced them to convert with violence and and all that. That's a fact. Yes, that's true. But look, it's written.
Yes.
It's written in Jeremiah.
The question that I asked you is, do you think that practice of forcing people to convert, do you think that is why Christianity is so widespread today, or do you think that it has more to do with people of their own free will and accord discovering the teachings of Jesus and deciding to follow Jesus and his gospel of love and all that stuff? Or do you think that it is more because people were slaughtered if they didn't convert?
I think that it's obviously the good teaching, the good teaching, the violence, the violence that has happened in the past.
Yeah, and that right there, Roberts, that right there is why I do not take anything that you're saying even remotely seriously. You think that these for hundreds of years, millions of people were killed, and those who weren't killed were forced to participate in your religion. And then somehow, after all of that, everybody was just like, you know what? This religion's pretty great. Let's just follow this Jesus guy. This is all about love. This is all about love, and therefore I'm a part of it. Are you fucking serious? It's ridiculous to say.
Okay, you're okay. Your point of view is completely justified. I understand that. I looked at it before like that. I have not been Christian all my life. Most of my life, I was not even caring until I read the Bible with understanding and research and everything. But look, blow your mind. This argument that you're saying, check out Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 8, 9, and 10. Just check it out real quick and tell me what you think about it.
No, I really don't care about your Bible
fucking verse.
So
I really don't.
I don't.
It's an argument. Look, let me be fair.
We got a lot of calls.
Argument. You're asking me.
Forrest, do you want to move?
You're asking me about my faith, right? You're asking me about my faith.
He's just
I'm telling you
sitting
about my
there
faith, and I rely on the scriptures.
And no, I'm sorry. I'm muting him because he's not even listening to us anymore. There, Forrest. I think that Roberts is just going to continue to throw out Bible verses, and he thinks that a circular argument where he says, "Oh, but my Bible says," is going to be convincing to a couple people that don't think that the Bible is representative of anything in fucking reality.
That you could literally find, like, there could be a verse in Jeremiah that literally says bad Christians are going to do bad things with Christianity, but they're not really the Christians we're talking about, and that would not be useful to you. Because that is, again, what any forward-thinking cult leader would write down. Some people are going to misinterpret this. You can't trust everybody. Only trust me. That's what you would get if Joseph Smith was writing the fucking Bible. So, like, it's immensely frustrating, Roberts, that literally every single time you have challenged us with a Bible verse, you have challenged us to look something up on Google, whatever, we've done it. We've checked it, and we haven't been compelled by it. And we have asked you in this entire fucking 38-minute call 2 questions. And it was like pulling hen's teeth to get you to answer them. And both times you circle back to, well, look at the Bible. We don't give a fuck about the Bible. And I don't know how to make that clear to you. It sucks how hard it is for you to think outside of the narrow little box in your head that you've trained yourself to think in. I'm good to move on. John, I'll leave it up to you.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, Roberts. I'm not going to let you come on and have the last word just because you've been, not really listening to us at all. So thank you so much, though, Roberts. But I think that we are going to move on to our next theist. And I'll let you pick there first.
Yeah. Let's talk to Mark, who has a question for us, it seems. Mark calling in from Sandy Crotch, who wants to know what happens when you die. Mark, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How you doing?
Hi, Forrest and John. I'm doing fine. Oh, my topic is not a question. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yeah.
Hello. Oh, okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear us?
My topic is yes, I can. My topic is not a question. It's a comment. That I can tell you exactly what happens when you die, and it's based on the work of.
Messed up because it ends up with a question mark. Also, I'm going to be real honest with you right now. If you just mention a psychic medium that you saw on TV and you say that's your evidence, I'm just going to end the call. So do you want to just tell me if that's what it is? Because I'm not interested if that's what it is.
Oh, here it is. Hold on. It's Dr. Sam Parnia, MD, PhD. He's been working on NDEs for 25 years. and there have been 9 million in NDEs in the United States. Here's a bio. No religious beliefs, which means, I guess, atheist agnostic. He's a British associate professor of medicine, NYU Long Island Medical Center.
Spell his last name. Sam what?
Sam Parnia. Parnia. I remember it as like
Parnia.
Parnia. Yeah. And it's the Director of Research, Cardiopulmonary Resuscitation, Research Director, Human Consciousness Project. He says you can be revived for 24 hours after death with the right circumstances, which usually means a refrigeration. He's affiliated with multiple hospitals, Hammersmith Hospital in London, University of Southampton, PhD. He's written a shelf full of books, including Lucid Dying, What Happens When We Die.
I'm not here for you guys to just be a fucking stool for this dude. Just tell me what you're talking about.
Well, okay. What happens when you die? Consciousness leaves the body as the body dies. Consciousness is free. It floats around the room. It can move about at will. It can see without eyes, hear without ears, and read minds. And here's
it's a lot. It's a lot of claims.
Well, here's one that solves them all. This is a story of a guy who was at his first day on the job.
I'm so sorry. I don't care about anecdotal stories. I'm sorry, Forrest. I don't know if you're interested in hearing anecdotal stories about near-death experiences, but that just doesn't cut it.
That's all there is.
That's pretty shitty.
I can't demonstrate it without doing it. I can't demonstrate it without.
That's not how science works. So look, you're quoting a scientist here. You're trying to be scientifically legitimate. I get that, but you can't sit there and tell me anecdotal stories are the only pieces of evidence that we have for this. There's no scientific data. If there's going to be something that actually exists after this life, and we're going to say that we know it, then there's got to be some kind of empirical evidence of it. Anecdotal stories are not going to be that evidence. Okay. It's just anecdotal stories. One, there's no way for us to actually validate and verify what you're even saying here. So, you're literally telling us a story, just a grandstand and monologue at that point. Number two, you said that there was a period of 24 hours after death in which you can revive somebody. Yep. That's what the Parnia guy says. Death is the most likely outcome after 10 minutes without oxygen as far as the brain goes. So you're basically brain dead after 10 minutes. I doubt 24 hours is actually a legitimate claim. Number four, or whatever letter I'm on. So as far as NDE goes, NDEs are pretty poor evidence, and the fact that we can't actually determine on whether or not these experiences that these people are claiming to have are happening on either side of either brain death or not brain death, but just death, like the heart stopping and being revived. And there's obviously no way for us to tell that it's actually happening while the brain is deprived of oxygen, as the person is basically dead. There's no way for us to determine exactly when these things are happening. NDEs are routinely rejected, and there are no actual NDEs that have been proven to actually provide us any kind of insight to an afterlife. So, I mean, if all you have are anecdotal pieces of evidence, then this call is kind of pointless. I don't know how Forrest feels. It seems like Forrest is reading about the scientist guy, so maybe he has some input there.
I'll have him respond to you.
He's been working on it for 25 years. He's been working on it for 25 years. He's been working on it for 25 years. He's answered all the questions that you just asked.
I sincerely doubt that he has. Because I mean, what I'm telling you is what the current scientific standard is.
Well, I think your current scientific standard is old.
Doctor or what?
After what? Well, that's been old for about 10 years. That's what Parnia says, and he is the expert.
Oh, okay. So we're just appealing to the authorities now, huh?
Well,
you don't have any empirical evidence. No, you don't have any empirical evidence to appeal to. So you're just saying, oh, well, this expert says a thing, therefore that thing is true. That's a logical fallacy.
I've been sitting here and scrolling, and I found things in Scientific American, and I found things in I Fucking Love Science, and I found things on CNN, and I found things from a couple of universities, and all these different things that are talking about some stuff this guy has published. And these are all from like years and years and years ago. This guy, this is from 2022. So the latest ones I'm finding are like 3 years old. This one's 2023, so this one's only 2 years old. And everything that I'm seeing on this just so far, including I actually found one of this dude's papers published in 2022, Guidelines and Standards for the Study of Death and Recalled Experiences of Death, Multidisciplinary Consensus Statement and Proposed Future Directions, which is by him and a shit ton of other people that worked on this. And even reading the abstract of his actual work, as well as several other articles that have been written about him then and in years after, I'm seeing a bunch of stuff about how this dude is noticing some similar experiences by people who've been resuscitated. He says over and over that like resuscitation technology is improving. We used to think if you stopped breathing, you were just dead forever, but it turns out we can resuscitate you. That brain matter starts decaying within a few hours to a day or two after death. So I don't know where the fuck you're getting this thing that people within 24 hours. I can tell you that's not accurate, but whatever. That your brain starts decaying within a few hours, and within a day or so, it's completely just beyond gone. And all over and over is saying that at the time of death, he's seeing certain spikes in like brain activity and stuff. And that sounds like increased awareness, which is what's causing these kinds of experiences, which seem to have some universal, superficial things, like where people are saying they have some universal experiences, which he's attributing to these spikes in brain activity. And again, I've literally heard about this for as long as we've been talking about it. I haven't done a deep dive in any of this, but just the casual glances that I'm reading from all of these articles that have been written about this dude, and also this dude's own work, absolutely none of it is suggesting the experience or the existence of a soul or an afterlife or consciousness literally existing outside of the body or any of that. I can't even find any religious sources making those claims. I'm finding people who are talking about this guy describing what happens in our brains at time of death, not that consciousness lives outside of our body in any way. Where did you get that from?
It's all over. They did a video about it.
All over. Who did a video? Who did a video?
Parnia.
Who made that video?
Parnia.
He did a video himself where he said...
Yes.
Where he said that the consciousness exists outside the body.
Yes.
Hold on. I love how your evidence is basically I like how your evidence is basically there's a YouTube video about it.
That was his evidence last time.
Well, why don't you look at it?
Pulling up the transcript here. Judge. For the same fucking reason that I don't want to look up the last thing you told me, and I was right to not want to look up the last thing you told me. I'm scrolling through the transcript of the video that you just claimed that we should be watching, and I'm looking for the word consciousness, and it isn't there. Now I'm going to look up
Nobody ever says consciousness. He's the research director of the Human Consciousness Project. Oh, this is just silly.
Hold on. Maybe I'm double check. I'm giving you way more of a fair shake than you fucking deserve. So hold the fuck on. Here we go. Where's our consciousness self go? Study of consciousness, cardiac research, thought process and consciousness without physical pain. This period seeming unconscious from outside the world. So nope. Gore's is other consciousnesses. I'm literally just Control F going through every time they mention consciousness in the transcript of this video. Consciousness connected to the lost ancient question, the question of consciousness. So he's asking questions about it. Greek language, blah, blah, blah. Debates around consciousness are often blah, blah, blah. In terms of hard problem of consciousness, we have easy problems of consciousness, which is maybe misleading because they're all hard problems. What I think is meant by hard problems, blah, blah, blah. Goes on to talking about ancient beliefs about consciousness, what we define consciousness as. There's two ways you can approach the concept of consciousness. I'm still not seeing anything about consciousness existing outside the body, which says brain. Here's the physicalist belief that brain activity causes consciousness. It does face a problem with new empirical results that we're getting from resuscitation patients after an hour of no brain activity. These people report a very clear consciousness experience after seeing a light in the tunnel. This is where I'm assuming is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Conscious experience or human element, blah, 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 blah. That person's something, something. And here he's describing that some patients have had. So what exactly happens to our consciousness after death remains unclear, but science does at minimum suggest we do seem to become annihilated when we cross over into death, into the great unknown, and that perhaps human actions and human thoughts and intentions do matter. I'm certainly seeing patients close to death have that kind of eye-opening awareness. Now he's just talking about people coming. So there's the part here I found in the transcript. Here is the part where he says that science is challenging what we think we know about consciousness, and it seems people are having vivid experiences after death. And then immediately after that, the next thing that he says is that what happens to our consciousness after death remains unclear, and that it is very suggested that we are annihilated and that there is no persistent consciousness. So the dude you're calling upon here doesn't say what you're saying.
I haven't seen the summary that you're talking about, but it's not in the video.
This is from the transcript that you told us to look up. This is from Rethinking Death, Exploring What Happens When We Die by Parnia Lab at NYU Langone Health and on YouTube.
Yes.
I'm just scrolling through the transcript of that video. So here's the thing, Mark, is that if this guy did say that, hey, I did a scientific study and I found out that there's consciousness persistent after death, whoop-de-fucking-do. You found one scientist who says some shit. Deepak Chopra says dumb shit all the time. When this guy gets a Nobel Prize for this, I will start listening. But so far, what you have done, exactly as what you did last time you called in, is you watched a YouTube video, asked no questions, and then believed some crazy shit about magic. And I want to ask you why you do that. Why is that enough for you? One YouTube video from one guy with some letters next to his name. Why is that enough for you to hold on to a belief in some supernatural crazy shit that has absolutely no other science backing it up? Because as John rightly started pointing out, we know that that the process of seeing is a physical process. We know that the process of hearing is a physical process. We know that the process of thinking is a physical process. We know everything that links back to brains is a physical process. We know that consciousness is an emergent property of brains. We know that because we have yet to see a single example of consciousness existing outside of a brain, despite this one guy who you're saying says that. And we've yet to see a single credible example of that with any kind of real backing. And we have seen ample examples of the fact that changing brains changes consciousness. So why is it good enough for you when all scientists are in consensus that all of this is physical, all of this is material, all of this comes from brains? Why is it good enough for you to watch a single YouTube video where a single guy makes a big claim that you are not equipped to verify or analyze, and you just say, yep, there's no way that's fucking wrong. Absolutely, I believe in that. Why is that acceptable for you?
This is not a single guy. He's got a huge army of doctors behind him, 25 years of experience.
How many?
And
How many?
Data from 9 million U.S.
How many?
How many what?
How many doctors are working? Oh, please. You're the one who fucking brought it up. You said he has an army of doctors. I'm asking how many?
More than enough. You're very
what is enough
about going into this area.
What is enough, Mark? What is enough?
100.
100. So this right here,
pulled that out of your ass.
Absolutely no way. So does this man have more than 100 doctors that are agreeing with him that there is 30 fucking
please.
4.
You begged for it. You begged for a number.
Just to be clear, just to be clear, when you shut the fuck up, Mark, I'm so fucking sick of this shit from you. Just to be clear, your initial claim was this one fucking guy said some shit and that means it's true. Then when I pressed you on that, you said, no, he's got an army of people. More than enough to be convincing. And when we push you on what more than enough means, you said it's 100. And now it's 34. So he's got 34 fucking people. Guess what? There are way more than 30. There are lists of literally over 1,000 scientists who don't believe in evolution, who don't believe in the Big Bang, who you can find 1,000 scientists who say all sorts of crazy shit. That's not an academic consensus. That's not how peer review works. That's not how science progresses. So what happened once again is you have been convinced because you watched some shit on YouTube that you don't know anything about and you just believed it. Why? Why do you do that, Mark?
There are so many philosophical fallacies of logic. In your last tirade, it took me to count. It would take a day to map them all out.
To map out how many fallacies I've committed, you said?
Correct.
Okay, pick one. What's one fallacy that I committed? Since you can't name all of them, what's one that I just committed?
You're daring me to pick a number of doctors, how many he has behind him. He's multiple hospitals on both sides of the Atlantic.
I'm daring you to back up the shit you said. You said he has more than enough doctors to make what he's saying credible. I'm asking you what that means. Okay. Because I can sit here and tell you there's more than enough evidence for evolution. And if you ask me what that means, I can actually back that up and say that literally it is the backbone of biology, that every single biological experiment hinges upon it, that it has not just mountains of evidence, but unbelievable, overwhelming evidence because every different area of science points back to it. I can actually give you reasons to say that shit. I'm not just saying it to dismiss somebody's argument. You're saying he has more than enough because you don't like thinking about these things, and that sounds really important and impressive, and so you don't have to grapple with the fact that this is one single guy and his friends. Maybe he's got 100 doctors. Maybe he's got 1,000 doctors. There's, as I just said, over 1,000 doctors that sign up on lists every fucking year saying that the evolution isn't real. Doesn't make them fucking right. Project Steve is over 1,500 signatories of scientists named Steve. Getting a long list of scientists who say some shit doesn't mean anything, Mark. And in this case, you've got somebody with 34.
Well, you just said it did. You said one was not enough. So I told you that there are more than one, and that's suddenly wrong. And why don't you listen to one anecdote? I said getting a long list of scientists who say some crazy shit and don't actually have academic consensus behind them. If this dude proved that consciousness was existing outside of the mind, he would be everywhere for it. He would be taught in every medical school on the planet. The fact that we haven't heard about this dude should tell you something. It means that you're undereducated.
I'm not saying fuck off with that. Absolutely not.
Oh,
and that's not just for me. Like I don't fucking care about me. But
I think you're dynamite on evolution.
Isn't my area? What do you mean it isn't my area?
It's not your area. Consciousness.
What is my what area is this? What area is this, Mark?
Your area. It's consciousness. This guy is the director of research of human consciousness. The Aware Project 1 and Aware Project 2.
This is in consciousness research is what this area is in. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What is your academic background in consciousness research to say that this is valid and true?
I've been reading for about 2 years, and nothing.
So you've been reading.
Is not that.
So to be clear, just to be very clear, you don't have any academic background in this, but I'm supposed to believe this because the guy who called in a couple of weeks ago to say that ghosts are real and a man has superpowers because he knew some shit about Anderson Cooper and his mom, That's the guy who's going to convince me that this other dude that I've never heard of actually has proven that consciousness exists outside the mind because of a study that I've never heard about. And who knows? Who the fuck am I, right? I'm not that special or important or smart. I'm just an asshole on the internet. But like the fact that this isn't anywhere that I've ever heard of, it's because, Mark, you don't give a fuck about what you know. That's why I'm so hostile. It's frustrating to me. You don't give a shit about whether or not the things you believe are actually true. You just see some shit on the internet and believe it instinctively and run along with it and call these shows and try to make us try to gaslight us because we don't believe the dumb shit you put in front of us just instantly like this because no, it's not your fucking turn. It's not your fucking show. Quit interrupting. Calm the fuck down. The fact that you call into shows like this and try to tell us that mediums are real and psychics are real and near-death experiences are real and all this stuff is real because you watched a YouTube video and you've been reading some things. It's fucking lazy. It's sincerely, genuinely lazy. And it's so fucking arrogant for you to sit here and call us uneducated. You don't know what the fuck our backgrounds are in. You don't know what we've studied or what we know. We just have never heard of this one random dude who it looks like isn't even saying the things that you were saying he's saying. You watched a video on YouTube and you were convinced by it. I swear to God, I hope you never fucking watch the mermaids documentary on the Discovery Channel. You'll be calling about fucking mermaids next week. It's ridiculous. We demonstrated the last time you called in that you're gullible as shit and you'll believe anything anybody tells you. And now here we are again, where you watched another video and you believed another thing. What are we supposed to do with it, dude? Where do we go from here? John, I leave it up to you. I'm fucking bored.
Well, listen to this one anecdote. This is my personal experience when I worked in public television. I don't care about your
anecdotal evidence.
Sorry, I dropped him.
Science.
Like when he said, "Here's my personal anecdotal experience," I'm just like, nope, fuck it. I'm just done.
Yeah, this is the guy, in case you don't remember, I don't think you were on with us, but this is the guy who called in last time to say he watched a psychic on YouTube who knew some shit about Anderson Cooper and his childhood and his mom. And there's no way he could have known that. And we're like, hey, Anderson Cooper's famous as shit and his mom's famous as shit. And you can very easily learn anything that he said about this dude on YouTube or on Google. And he's like, well, yeah, but he knew stuff about the camera crew too. And he's like, what's more likely, that this guy has superpowers or that he just did a cold reading or got the information beforehand or that everyone just lied and said that he got it right to make good TV? And he's like, nope, no way. He definitely has superpowers. Mark is the fucking #1 subscriber for National Enquirer magazine, who just believes any fucking thing that he sees on YouTube, and it sucks. It really sucks. And then he always calls in smug as a motherfuck to say, oh, you don't know shit. You're all uneducated because you didn't watch the YouTube video I watched. You don't know anything about science. This isn't your area. Is it yours? You've been reading some things and you watched a YouTube video and you believe in ghosts. What area are you in, Mark? Fuck off. Just so fucking, just so arrogant.
I was totally done. I was done with him when he was like, this isn't your area of expertise. As if you don't have some kind of knowledge that could, be just the general scientific mindset of knowing what makes for good evidence and how to easily parse through scientific studies and everything like that. I think that you're better at that than I am, but even I can do that. And it just seems like he's not equipped for that.
The man does not check anything he believes. Anytime he calls in, it's just, I saw this online, so it's real. And it's like, dude, it's the same reason I stopped talking to fucking Steve from Nebraska. It's just, I saw this thing that said this, so that's real, right? Nope. Okay, well, I'll call next week and ask again. Why? It's every time. Oh, man. It's so frustrating.
All right. Yeah. Do you want to try Gary again?
Let's talk to Gary. Gary's been waiting for a long fucking time. Gary, you're on the line with Forrest and John. How you doing?
Hey, Forrest and John, thank you. I had a philosophical question, more of a philosophical question about morality and myth instead of a scientific question. I don't know if you're going to be interested in that.
Probably, yeah. We talk, most of our calls are not about science.
Okay. Well, thank you. All right. So I was listening to the line a few days ago, and this got me very, very interested. And the caller said, well, love is an objective, it's just there. Don't you believe in love? God is love. So if you believe in love, and look how love is so real in the world, and everybody has romantic feelings, and it brings them together, and therefore God. And the gal on the show said, well, no, I don't believe in love like this objective entity out there that's, has scientific verifiable evidence and scientific verifiable demonstration. I just think that it's a feeling, and we work with that feeling, and it can help us survive. And I was on her side. And so it got me to thinking about morality and mythology. Morality, I look at morality as just as substantial as mythology. I think love is a mythological feeling and reality, and it works, or sometimes it doesn't work. It makes people fight. It's a power and control emotion. It's a power and control dynamic. And I don't think that there's any objective thing out there or entity called love. And so it got me thinking about morality. Morality is the same thing. It's not an entity out there that you can have scientific verifiable evidence, scientific verifiable demonstration. No, it's more of a feeling. It's an emotion. It's a psychological dynamic. And I thought about, well, in that sense, morality is on the level of mythology, the two M's, morality and mythology. And so I said, both of them are ultimately without scientific evidence and demonstration, objectively. So what do you guys think about that?
I feel like I agree with your rhetorical goals, but I don't agree with your exact wording. So like, there is no such thing as morality in an objective sense. You can't go get like a tablespoon of morality. You know what I mean? It's not like a real physical thing. As far as it being scientifically demonstrable or anything like that, it is. You can demonstrate whether someone has morality. You can demonstrate whether different non-human animals have moral behavior. But it's important to remember that we are using our subjective understanding of what we call morality to apply to that. So like, for example, you can demonstrate eusocial, pro-social behaviors. You can demonstrate compassion. You can demonstrate empathy. You can demonstrate animals going out of their way to help one another, even at sacrifice of safety and reward and blah, blah, blah. You can demonstrate grief. We can demonstrate all these things in non-human animals, and we call that morality, and we show that there's more, but that is because that's what we value as a society, as a species. We value those things, and we are calling those things morality. So ultimately, any discussion of morality, I wouldn't call it mythology, but I get where you're going with that. And I would say, yes, there is any discussion of morality is ultimately hinging on our subjective values as a species. Those values change over time and across cultures. And there's certain things that seem to be pretty ubiquitous across us and other mammals and sometimes other animals beyond that as well. But there is no real genuine thing called morality. There is no actual arbiter or actual judge of any of that. So yeah, like I said, I value your rhetorical goals, but I disagree with your language, and I would be very careful about that. What are we going for here?
Well, it's just something that I've been pondering. It's a query for me because I'm on a journey, and I've just exited, maybe a few years ago, the Christian theology paradigm, and I've left that all behind. And so I'm trying to discover and get. I'm trying to discover something. But let me quickly. I've been reading Friedrich Nietzsche and Hume and others, radical skeptics, and Friedrich Nietzsche's atheism was quite different from Hume. But let me just put it out here. Friedrich Nietzsche said that there is no God. We have killed him. God is dead. The whole business. Most famous atheist philosophically. And so he said, so God is dead. Now, God for him, philosophically, was ontology. Onto meaning being. So you have this ultimate being, ontology. Here's the ultimate being. Beingness itself is dead. And many people don't understand that he was saying, basically, in the whole realm of truth, reality, the universe, everything, morality, even science itself, has no beingness to it. That there's no ontological ultimate certainty. There's no ontological ultimate status. So what I'm getting at is this, that morality has no ontological certainty. Morality has no ontological status. And just like God, that's gone. All ontology is gone. Just like mythology is the ontology of gods. There's God, there's Zeus, there's Jehovah, there's this and that, there's Krishna. But he was wiping the slate clean. He says, don't look for any ontology in this universe. Morality itself is not ontological. It is existential. So that's where I'm going with this, is that morality is existential and it has no ontological status or ontological certainty. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so I get hung up. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a philosopher. So I get hung up on some of these terms between existential versus ontological and everything, but I'm pretty sure I agree with that more or less. Just to be clear, I don't think there's any actual such thing as morality. I think that what we call morality is an evolved trait. I think that there is adaptive utility to what we would associate with certain moral behaviors, certain things that are pro-social and eusocial, and that the compassion and empathy and self-sacrifice and all those things play a big part in the group selection and make species more adaptive and more fit. So I'm cool with all that. And I'm cool with the nihilistic approach to morality of saying that there is no real such thing as that. It is just mythology, for lack of a better word. Like you say, I think that's fine. Mythology that we come up with to make ourselves more comfortable in the void. I'm fine with that. I wouldn't put that out to literally all of existence. I do think there's objective reality. There's just no objective morality.
Ah, I see. That's a very good clarification on your part. Yes, I see where you're coming from. No, very, very good. That's really, there's certainly quite a challenge to that as an atheist or someone who's questioning, because I noticed that on the line, you guys are passionate about social issues, whether it's the gay community, transgender, whatever it may be. You want to show that there is an intelligent and compassionate way to look at things with those subject matters. And it just occurred to me, if mythology is just, if morality is just another form of mythology, how do you ground yourself in that passion that you guys have for these different subjects that you're talking about, caring for the poor, the gay community, transgender, trying to understand, trying to have compassion, taking the side of understanding? What is the ultimate ground then? If morality is ultimately without substance, i.e., a form of mythology for our species, where are you grounding it in this empathy and understanding you have for social issues?
That's actually a really good question. So if we don't think, or if I can speak for myself at least, if I don't think that there is such thing as objective morality, and I don't think that there is such thing as morality in a real sense, then why am I so incredibly passionate about helping marginalized people and sticking up for people in all these different areas? There's a couple of reasons. Number one, because this is a big question, so I'm going to do a bad job organizing my thoughts here, but I'm going to try. Number one is because, as I said before, pro-social behaviors are actually adaptive. There is actually an evolutionary backing behind them. I don't plan on driving human evolution through compassion. I don't think that's a reasonable thing, but it is very apparent that societies work better. That's why they are adaptive. That's why these things evolve. Societies worked better when we have that kind of compassionate backing. So I can now argue from a completely selfish standpoint and from a completely selfless standpoint that inclusivity, compassion, social justice, social welfare, all these things that help the weakest and most vulnerable among us be made as equal as possible, those things are good for everybody. Those things are good for me because they objectively help societies grow and prosper and thrive. Diversity is strength. And also, selflessly, I can say that I care about humanity. I care about my fellow people. I don't need an objective morality to decide on my own that this is the kind of person that I want to be. The second thing that I would say is that the highest level of moral development is the development and application of universal moral principles. And again, these can be selfless or selfish. So I can say that I value, say, for example, bodily autonomy. And for that reason, I am now able to say, I don't want anybody stabbing me. And also, I don't think that I should be stabbing anybody else. And I can do that based on a universal principle that I no longer have to violate. I can be consistent and honest with my morality without being wishy-washy and deciding when it's good enough or useful enough to me to be a moral person. At the end of the day, I don't think that I'm going to be punished or rewarded after death. So there's no carrot or stick here for me besides, I guess, the legal system. But it is just trying what I think is right. And so I'm giving myself the opportunity to live as authentically as I can and to do what I think is right at all times. I think that is a gift, and it's hard to talk about without sounding incredibly fucking full of myself. So I try not to. And then the last thing is that it's important to remember that the problems that we have when we talk about homelessness, we talk about anti-LGBT sentiment, we talk about racism, when we talk about all these different things, they are the result of ignorance, stupidity, outdated fear, xenophobia, capitalism, all sorts of things that I'm strongly against as a scientist and as somebody who is interested in progress and in knowledge and in thought. So again, from a selfish standpoint and from a selfless standpoint, I can say that the systems and ideologies that gave us the type of hate and oppression that we struggle with every single day and have historically struggled with for hundreds of thousands of years, those same stupid heuristics, those same shackles are burdening us today. And so from a selfish standpoint, I want to be free of that because it's hurting me too. And from a selfless standpoint, I want to see society advance. So those are ways that I can address these things without needing to say there's definitely a real thing called morality and it looks like this. I can say there is no fucking morality. I am deciding that these are my principles. I am living in my most authentic self, standing up for these principles. And these principles happen to include freeing myself and people around me that I love and care about from the burdens of these stupid, outdated systems that have given us stupid, outdated problems like capitalism, racism, homophobia, xenophobia, blah, 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 blah. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, thank you. Yeah, it does, and I got my listening ears on, so yeah, I do appreciate that. And like I said, I myself am just working through this. I've been listening to The Line for particularly Matt Dillahunty years ago, an atheist experience. And he came up with something that literally was a complete game changer in my life, which you have hinted on, and I've listened carefully to what you said, and I am tuning into it. But I want to leave on one point, and that this Matt Dillahunty, what he did to me, it's all his fault. I'm just kidding. I'm being funny and facetious. But he was saying, this caller came in and said, well, the Bible says, and the morality of the Bible, and God did this and this and this and that. And years ago, this was about 7 years ago, and Matt Dillahunty said one thing that changed the whole game for me and how I approach reality and truth. He said simply this. He said to the caller, do you know that what you've done here is just made assertions? You're making assertions. You're making claims. But where is the scientific verifiable evidence and the scientific verifiable demonstration of those assertions and claims? Now, when he said that 7 years ago, I said to myself, my God, I've been taking those biblical claims as equaling evidence. The Bible proves the Bible proves the Bible. And when he said that, something clicked in me, and I said, my God, that's what I've been doing. I've been making a false... Yeah.
That's why we do these shows, my dude. You've got a bunch of people here who don't believe in an afterlife, sacrificing hours and hours and hours a week to get those exact moments out of people, because we think that that religion is an evil thing that is hurting people, and we want to help people like you free yourself from this dogma and from the shackles of this religion. So I'm thrilled to hear that one of these worked for you, and that Matt was able to be so impactful for you. And I see you're still calling in as a theist, but you said throughout the call here that you're deconstructing slowly. I can't fucking wait for you to call in and tell us about how you don't believe in any of these gods anymore, man.
Well, yeah, I'm literally, it's a clear horizon. All I got before me is a clear horizon, and I'm glad to get through tonight, and I noticed I didn't hear John. It seems like John has disappeared. Is he still there?
He is. He just hates you.
Oh, he is. He does?
Oh, no, I'm just teasing you. I'm just messing with you. His mic is muted, though.
No. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, I just didn't have any extra input that Forrest wasn't already covering. So I thought Forrest did a fine job, so I just I doodled. I doodled a little beach scene.
Oh, okay. Well, very good. I want to thank you guys for picking up the phone, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks so much, Gary. I appreciate your call, man. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What a nice dude. Hope things go well for him.
Yeah. I really wasn't trying to be disrespectful or anything. I literally thought that you were handling it fine.
I thought you weren't disrespecting me. You weren't bothering me. I appreciate it. We've got Steven, pronouns he and him, calling in all the way from the land of tea and monarchy, the UK, who is a theist, who believes in Jesus and his disciples and wants to defend his faith here on Easter. Steven, you are on the line with Forrest and John. How are you doing today?
Finally, Steven.
Goodness me, it's like 2:45 in the morning over here.
I appreciate you staying up late for us.
Well, it is Easter Monday, so I haven't got work tomorrow, so it's fine.
Yeah, how's tomorrow?
Well, technically tomorrow's today, isn't it? So I'm already in Monday.
For you.
So,
it's 8:45 over here. I can hear you just fine, man. So what you say you believe in Jesus is as his disciples say he is. So are you're talking about Jesus and the Bible. Really quickly before we jump in, I just want to ask you the same questions I usually ask Christians. Do you believe that the Bible is wholly and completely accurate, word for word, or do you think that it needs to be interpreted and like some of it's not quite right, some of it's like parable, some of it's poetry, some of it is inaccurate or whatever, but like, or do you believe every single word of the Bible is true?
Look, in an ideal world, obviously, if we would just go off the basis that if the Bible is God's word, then of course I would like to think that God wouldn't want the Bible to be misinterpreted so many times to the point where there's so many different denominations. So clearly, I understand that from a human being's perspective, maybe it was always going to be the case where there was going to be different interpretations, and maybe we can never get away from that. The same way, I suppose, that there's different interpretations when it comes to disagreements, when it comes to scientific topics. You're going to get two sides of the table. I'm just as an example, I think humans will always disagree no matter what you've got in front of you. So in terms of answering your question, do I believe it's God's word? Yes. Do I believe it gets misinterpreted? Yes. And what was your other question? Sorry.
To be clear, I was asking more about like internal consistency. So like the Bible, has lots of inconsistencies, lots of where one part contradicts another part, lots of things that are scientifically impossible or don't make sense according to match up with reality. So like that's really what I'm asking about. Like, do you think that the Bible as it is a good enough account?
The Bible was never meant to be a scientific book to begin with. I think it'd be nice if it was. I mean, imagine if the Bible literally had all the scientific answers right there in front of us for 2,000 years. I mean,
it'd be great. That's what I'm asking about, because we get Christians who call in all the time who say, no, every single word of the Bible is true, and if the Bible says the sky is red, then the sky is red. And you know what I mean?
I'm sorry, but as much as I love my brothers and sisters in Christ, some of them are idiots. You've got idiot atheists, you've got idiot Christians. I'm sorry, I can have a drink with them, I can have a beer with them, and but I will tell them to shut up as well. So I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I love them. But, and I don't claim to be a great apologist, but I can have a good conversation with somebody, have a laugh, and have a beer afterwards. And what men should do. We disagree, but we can also agree on something. So do you know what? My question was a loaded question when I put that in the old web chat box thing. So I'm happy for you to throw something my way, and if I come away red-faced, brilliant.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I understand where you're coming from. And then the one last question really quickly that I had is do you believe specifically the character of God and or Jesus in the Bible as he is presented in here? Do you believe that character is an accurate representation of the God that you believe in?
In terms of how Christ is characterized within the Bible, I would like to think that if more people, including Christians, were to try and follow those teachings, I think we can all agree, at least, I like to think, even atheists, just literally strictly talking about the teachings of Christ, I think the world could be a better place. But unfortunately, Christians don't always follow Christ's teachings, and I would include myself in that one. And sometimes I'm not perfect. So
sure. And I appreciate that, but the question that I asked you is very specific for a reason. So like there is a God in the Old Testament, and then there's Jesus in the New Testament, and they're the same person in different forms and blah blah blah. The character that is presented in the Bible of this God that is pretty consistent throughout. I'm asking you, like, the actions, the words, the things this God commands, the things this God does. Do you think that God as presented in the Bible and Jesus as presented in the Bible is an accurate representation of the deity that you worship?
Well, let's get one thing clear. Although I believe in the Holy Trinity, I would consider myself to be a follower of Christ. And I've had conversations in the past where I think sometimes the Old Testament doesn't do us any favors, and I think it works in your favor in terms of bringing up certain passages from the Old Testament. I'm not going to lie, it's a difficult read, even for us Christians. So I follow Christ. I think that his teachings are amazing, and I believe they have created and they have provided the foundation for a lot of, going that last call, I think a lot of our morality in the West can be traced back to Christ and some of the teachings and the parables and I believe that's kind of influenced a lot of our human laws. I think, and I think that's
just to be clear, when you talk about you say you're not a Trinitarian, and I appreciate that. I'm not.
I am a Trinitarian. I do believe in the Trinity. Yes.
Oh. Okay, so
I'm not going to go down that route. I'm not going down that rabbit hole tonight. It's too late for that, but we can save that for another conversation. But
I'm super cool with that. But like that's kind of where I'm getting hung up, where I'm not quite understanding, because I agree that the God of the Old Testament certainly isn't doing Christianity any favors. He's an asshole. But Jesus is very clear that that he comes not to change the law, but to fulfill it, that not a jot or a tittle of the law of the Old Testament shall change until heaven and earth have come to pass, that he is the same as his Father before him, that he is coming with the same lessons and the same teachings. He actually is the one. It's not until Jesus that we get the concept of hell with eternal punishment for finite crimes. So like, if anything, he's a little bit more extreme than the God of the Old Testament. He just doesn't like set people on fire by himself as the God of the Old Testament does. It sounds to me by my reading that these are one and the same person, or at least Jesus is trying to tell us that he is the same person as this God. So I'm just trying to understand where your hang up is here in saying that like you don't think that the God of the Old Testament is an accurate representation of the God that you believe in, but you do believe that the God of the New Testament is an accurate representation, or is that not what you're saying? Maybe I'm misunderstanding you.
No, I think if we try and meet in the middle here, ultimately I would say, there are probably I would like to think, and I'm not an expert on this. I'm not coming in here with PhDs next to my name and stuff. But what I would say is that whenever there's something that's happened in the Old Testament, there has to be some kind of reason for that. We can't just look at it at face value and looking at it at black and white. Clearly, the reason it must have been documented is for there to be some sort of moral lesson to be born out of that. If we look deeply into it, and I'm sure if you started looking at theologians or even atheists who know a lot about the Old Testament,
I've got a question.
I'm sure you can pull something from that. There must be something in some of those stories where we can glean from that and learn something from it.
Oh, I get so I know that you said that you're not a theologian, but do you happen to recall Numbers 31?
No, not off the top of my head, no.
Okay, this is a really good example here, and I would love for you to either tell me or ponder on this. What is the moral conclusion, or what's the lesson to learn from God ordering Moses to go into the Midianite group of people group, have them slaughter every single one of them, including babies, including children, including all of the girls and women that had known a man or had sex, and to keep for themselves as spoils all the virgin girls. What's the moral lesson to be taken from God telling them to basically eradicate an entire people group, kidnap their little girls, and force them into sexual slavery?
So is there? So you're suggesting there's no moralistic justification for that?
I find it weird that you would call that a suggestion.
We're focusing on morality. I think I think off the back of that last call, we're zeroing in now on morality, and that's fine. We can have a conversation about that. I can meet with that one. I can honestly say that it doesn't sound like a good idea, but I'm sure theologians will try to do mental gymnastics to figure out how that can work in their favor. What have they said? You tell me what
can I tell you? Right, you're mentioning theologians. I can tell you what William Lane Craig said. William Lane Craig said that it was better to kill pagan children than to allow them to live. Do you resonate with that sentiment?
Is that based on the recent thing that kind of went viral in the last 6 to 12 months? Is that something? Is that what you're?
I mean, that's just him. That's just him reinforcing a belief that he's espoused before in an academic setting. So, like, he's just saying that his views haven't changed.
Well, I don't always agree with William Lane Craig as well. I mean, I think sometimes he can bring some strong arguments. He He has some, he's obviously clearly a very
that's not answering
intelligent man.
my question, though. That's not
So do you
answering
want
my
me
question.
to agree? Okay, so shall I agree with you and then we can move on to something? So I would say that without looking into it deeply, just looking at it at face value, common sense, logical common sense, I would say that passage clearly is a bit silly. And that's using nice words.
Okay,
That's an
God's
incredibly
silly.
charitable
I
way.
agree with you on that one. Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
So God's a silly bitch. Is that what you're saying?
God is a bit silly, and that's why he said to go slaughter a civilization and keep their virgin girls as sex slaves.
Should we look at it then as a completely like a house of cards then? So if we were to take that card away, and I'm willing to concede and agree with you on that one, does the complete concept of Christianity and everything else that comes with it that you guys, I'm sure, they debate about all the time, that's it, that house of cards was come crashing down?
No, so here's the thing: is that like you started out by saying that we that's why I asked you these questions to begin with, because I wanted to understand if you thought that the Bible was an accurate depiction of God, and you're here to defend this God. And here we have an example where this God is a monster. Like there is no I appreciate your kindly British demeanor to say that it's a bit silly, but what it is fucking disgusting. And so like that's the way we would say it here in America.
Okay, it's fucking disgusting. I'm quite happy to go with that word.
Right,
I've got a foul mouth,
and it's
don't
not.
you worry about that. I can
it's fine. And the key is that it is not even close to the only example. The Bible is a pro-slavery book front to back. God commands slavery and condones slavery over and over. The Bible has all manner of rape and torture and genocide and injustice. God is unjust and unkind and cruel and stupid over and over in the Bible. And that's not my opinion. If you read the book, he does things that are just dumb and are unbelievably just unkind and cruel. And what you said a minute ago before John asked you this question was that even the bad parts can be useful. There's a moral lesson to draw from that. And so the question that we have here, at least that I have, is what is the overall moral lesson that God was trying to teach by commanding genocide and sex slavery? What was the moral thing that we were to draw from that?
No idea.
Right. Is there, can you possibly conceive of one?
No, I can't, no.
Well, that's because you're a good person, Stephen. That's so. Congratulations. Yes.
But let's look at morality generally. I mean, if we were to use certain examples of what we consider to be bad, then we like to think that common sense should prevail here, and that we know that's bad. But clearly, we know that there are certain parts of the world where culturally they haven't been influenced by Christianity, and they will still think that things like marital rape is fine, and slavery is perfectly fine. I mean, they're to the point where. Do you understand what I mean?
So I'm going to call you out on a couple of things there, Stephen, because first of all, I agree with the rhetorical goal of saying that these are backward societies that are doing silly, awful things. And I think that is exactly what we're seeing in the Bible, that these are the people who wrote the Bible were backwards ass people who had horrible beliefs and practices, and they wrote them down as if God was saying to do them because they thought they were good people. I agree with that concept, and I think that's what we're seeing in the Bible. I don't think it's real. I think it is an artifact of Iron Age Palestinian goat herders who wrote down the horrible shit they were doing, and that's what we're seeing played out here. But what I think is more important is that you, in your statement there, just said these are parts of the world that haven't been exposed to Christianity, and that's why they're doing these things, as if Christianity wasn't a major driving factor in the slave trade. Christianity, here in the U.S., we had slavery because Christians upheld it, because the Confederate States of America were a Christian nation that in the articles or the Declaration of Secession said this is the law of the Christian God that any Christian nation would recognize as valid, that we should keep these slaves. You talked about marital rape. The Bible is very clear that wives are to be submissive to their husband, and I can tell you a dozen examples of men in culture here in America of Christian men raping their wives because they believe that is their wifely duty to never say no, because that's what God commands of them. There are Christians who are doing the things that you're saying are evil.
if we're saying that morality, because obviously as an atheist, you can't obviously say that morality is objective. You're going to work on the basis that it's subjective. Now that in itself
Certainly.
is quite tricky, because now you guys obviously
as are you as a Christian, by the way.
Well, okay. So, but as advocates of atheism and as advocates of humanism, clearly,
Well,
this is where we need to get down to have conversations here, because if Christianity's got us to a point where morally we may have got to a point where it may have had some benefits, whether that's because it's been written into especially British law, which has obviously heavily influenced American law. We know, and it's quite clear, and if you guys are clued up on this enough, morality has been our morality in the West has been very heavily influenced by Christianity in some respect. Now,
absolutely not.
I would say this, and I would say this: if we are going to move away from that, and we're going to start moving towards a humanist, secular society, which quite clearly the West is heading anyway. The West is heading that way. Probably has since the 60s, the sexual revolution. I think that was a real driver of what you would call Christian morals decline in America, Britain, and the West, and we're moving towards where we are now. You could argue that morality, in some ways, in terms of the way we look around, especially in the West, is a little bit confused with itself. I don't even know where we're going morally, to be honest with you. So, as a moral compass, we're going around in circles. Now, whether you agree with it or not,
I strongly disagree with your assertion.
Would you say morality is all over the place now? We've got no common ground other than what you hope is a human.
I don't say that.
Manifesto.
I don't say that. I think that I strongly disagree with your assertion that like our Western society was I heavily influenced by Christianity. Yes. Christian morality. No, it is morality that has evolved through reason and thought and just the exact same way that every other part of culture has evolved over thousands of years. There is a reason, like right now, not because of the sexual revolution or anything like that, you do not exhibit a biblical morality. And that's why you're not in jail, because you would never stone a child to death for back to assassinating their parents, as the book of Exodus tells you to do. So like, I don't think that's reasonable at all. John, you were trying to say something a minute ago. What were you?
Morality evolves, but so you reckon it can?
Yes.
How does morality? How do we in the West sit here right now, high and mighty, if you want to call it that, where we can point the fingers at other civilizations and cultures in the 21st century and say, we are right, you are wrong, you need to lead by what shapes, I mean, if we're talking about evolution here, why isn't humanity collectively, no matter what part of the world they're in, how come none of us have evolved? We're talking about evolution here, the brain and what have you, and how have we not sort of come to the same conclusion? Why is it we are ahead compared to others? What could you
we're not.
Could you maybe
I don't understand what that means.
Yeah, that question is largely rooted in ethnocentrism. You are looking at your culture as if it is so vastly morally superior to so many other cultures, and it isn't.
Just pointed the finger earlier on. I think one of you guys mentioned it, saying obviously, there are other cultures now, whether they're influenced by Islam or Hinduism. I'm not going to go down that road, but if there are certain cultures right now who clearly think it's totally normal for other things to be acceptable, whereas we in the West haven't, what do you think's made us get to the point where we are now, where we can point the finger at them and say, hey, you need to step up morally because we're ahead of you in that respect? That's I'm not going that's we must be thinking along this line.
Yeah, it's nobody says that.
I think that we can. Well, yeah, I think that we can use like secular humanism as well as like a general sense of human rights in order to correctly identify when human rights are being violated. So like I was going to say earlier, we can be objective about morality, but I don't think that morality can be itself objective. Like and when you say objective, what I hear is transcendental, like something that supersedes like human understanding and human driven ingenuity and all this other stuff in this respect. So is that what you're trying to say about morality, that Christian morality, the morality of the Bible, is somehow transcendental, like it's absolute?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, because you mentioned the word evolved, and obviously, that can be used in different contexts. But if you said that
I can be very clear about the context to clear that up if you'd like.
Yes, please.
So when I say that morality evolved, that has two meanings. Number one, I mean biological evolution, in the fact that morality is an evolved trait that we see not just in humans, but in other non-human animals as well, that it is actually adaptive and that it causes us to be better animals that live in better, healthier societies. And I also mean evolve from a cultural perspective, the same way that clothing evolves, the same way that hairstyles evolve, the same way that language evolves, whatever, is that this is something that we have, and as we talk about it, and as generations pass, and we criticize ourselves and criticize each other, we come to better and better and better understandings of what actually works best for more people, and so we evolve our morality. And so we can see, when we look at like universal moral principles, like say, for example, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights passed by the UN, right? If we look at that, we can say, okay, here are some pretty well understood multinational principles of bodily autonomy, of sovereignty, of the right to food and water and shelter, and all these basic things that make life livable as a person in a global society. And we can see where all countries, not just some foreign nation from somewhere else, but the UK and the US as well, are falling massively behind on those principles and others. To be able to look around and say there's these other places that haven't been influenced by Christianity yet, and so they're doing these bad things, is to be massively ignorant of how much evil Christianity has been responsible for in this world. That all the slavery and spousal rape and all the things you talk about, all of that has been due to Christianity as well, if not solely and mainly because of Christianity at sometimes. And also, it's to be profoundly ignorant of the fact it's also to be profoundly ignorant of the fact that your culture that you live in has a whole hell of a lot of stuff to be criticized for that other cultures aren't doing. So there's plenty of places around the world that aren't doing the bad shit that the UK and the US are doing right now, and don't have the problems that our countries have, and don't have the moral failings that our countries have, and they should be criticizing us the way that you are currently criticizing and looking down on other people.
If it's subjective, okay, so if morality is subjective and we're working off that basis, then and it's been driven through and it's been evolved through to the point where we're starting to continually learn what's right and wrong, or is it just something that's inherently we should know what's right and wrong, or do we have to constantly have to evolve how we understand what right and wrong is?
No, there's a lot to be said. There is I'm sorry, John. I just, that's annoying. There's very clear. I'm going to let you speak. There's very clearly a major nurture aspect to that, where people have to be trained what right and wrong is. There's some of it that's inherent, absolutely, but there's a major part of it that needs to be taught, and there's 1,000,001 examples of that. John, what were you saying before I so rudely interrupted you?
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. I was just gonna say that, yeah, nobody like pops out of the womb, knowing morality necessarily, at least not our social norms now. I mean, there is some intuitive nature to like people being able to, come to these moral conclusions and everything. But I think that for a large part of it is just like the social norms of each society. So like if you're born in Japan, you're going to have a different set of social norms than if you're born in the USA versus if you're born in somewhere in Europe. So like you're going to have different social norms that are part of the society that you are born into. And when we talk about things being intuitive, we're talking about things that, as far as like the society that you brought, like if you're brought up in Western society, like there's certain attributes that overlap in most societies, like the idea that it's wrong to murder another person. Hold on, I'm still talking. You've been monologuing a whole fucking lot. And so, I mean, that's just what I would say. But I also, I have a lot of theological questions for you whenever we get there, like, whether or not the God of the New Testament is the same in the past as he is in the present and as he will be in the future, and whether or not Jesus is God. Like, I have a lot of different questions about your theology, because that kind of affects like how we take the Old Testament and how we apply that to like New Testament stuff.
There's a lot of questions there, but I'd love to hear your response to what we just said.
Yeah, I know.
Well, look, I mean, for me, when it comes to morality, I think it's a bit concerning if we do go down a path where we believe that if there isn't a moral arbiter, and that's fine, that's something I know you guys need to obviously stick to. There's too much inconsistency. I think the moral compass is all over the place. Okay, and I think the West.
Okay, so let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
hold on. I'll let you guys talk for 10 minutes. Okay, just give me a chance now. Yeah. So, I think personally there is, and these are all just our personal interpretations. We may have a collective agreement among our group, but this is my personal opinion. Okay. Ultimately, if we are looking at different cultures and we have different morality, and it's all subjective depending on who you speak to, even your own neighbor, even if they're living in the same town, everybody has a different, other than the obvious. Okay, obviously, murder, rape, all these kind of things. When it comes to other things, morality, why is it then that everybody has a different opinion if you are working on the basis that it's evolved and if you're talking about it being socially, and I'm just trying to quote here, not quote, but if morally, if it's subjective, then I mean, do we have to work with it, or is that you just saying we have to work with it, and eventually we'll all just come and meet in the middle, eventually?
I'm saying that if you properly apply skepticism and reason, we will inevitably come to a lot of the same conclusions. It will be fuzzy and it will be imperfect. That's how all social systems are. But eventually we will come to a rational understanding of human health and flourishing and well-being based around objective principles to make it as realistic and as, I don't want to use the word mathematical, but as objective as possible. So yes, what we see with morality all over the world, including right now, especially throughout history, but even just right now, we see it as something that is built every day, that is argued and agreed upon and rationalized and discussed and debated, and for lack of a better word, intelligently designed every single day, generation to generation. It changes. My generation has very strongly different moral principles than my parents' generation, and they had different ones than theirs before them, and it gets better and better and better and better all the time, and it counts for more people unless there's a massive backslide. You talked about whether or not this thing is innate or not. Some parts of it are. You can see some moral behaviors in children that don't need to be learned because they just know that it makes them happy to make people smile. You can also see children that are indoctrinated into Nazi shit and into Klan shit and into all sorts of hateful and bigoted ideologies and taught to enjoy hurting other people. You can see children. I remember a case here in the US not too long ago of a kid who was incredibly rich who ran over some person with their car and genuinely could not understand why that was a problem because they were poor, which means they weren't worth anything. So there's plenty of examples of you can take a child and fuck them up by teaching them awful things and twisting their morality. That is obviously the case. That's why education is so important. And one of the better parts of education is multiculturalism and teaching people that everybody has different opinions and different ideas and different ways of looking at the world, and finding universal moral principles that we can apply to every situation and find a foundational principle like, say, bodily autonomy, like, say, democracy, like, say, justice, like whatever, that we can then try to universally apply to a diverse amount of situations to come to equally good outcomes as much as possible.
I mean, it just seems to me that, if the problem I find is that if you've got people, if we're trying to push individualism, people expressing themselves, and that's fine, and it sounds within reason and not the right thing to do, surely that's going to continue to allow people to have just differences of opinion. If there's not one universal thing that brings people together in terms of everybody's on the same page, and that's probably one of the things you could say, if there's anything that you could say about the benefits of religion in some respects, is that people seem to have a collective, not, obviously I know people disagree in certain things but more often than not, I would like to think that if there's a belief system in place, doesn't necessarily have to be religion. It could be politics. It could be a political system at some point. it seems to be there's more cohesion. But if I look at the West, and I believe that there's so many different kind of offshoots of all different types of belief systems and different kind of morality. I guess we can throw that back into the mix. I just don't see where the West, and you will focus on that for the moment, how that can continue to go in the right direction when clearly there's so many different directions that people just want to take it, and we can't even impose anything on anyone in particular, because in doing so that would be almost kind of almost their freedoms are taken away, if that makes sense. It's like how can we
say that
still moral, because I think laws
you
laws,
say that
laws isn't it? Laws keep
No, they don't. And also, you say that as if it's lamentable. I think that homogeneity of thought in religion, morality, or politics is a bad thing. I think that diversity of thought and diversity of opinion is a good thing, because if the religious, moral, political, whatever, like the conceptual paradigm that is currently dominating the cultural landscape, if that paradigm is worth a damn, then it will stand up to scrutiny and dissent. If it isn't, it won't, and it will be replaced by something better. Homogeneity of thought in politics, in morality, whatever, is a great way to instill dogma and stupidity where people don't have the ability to progress and make things better for themselves or for each other. Dissent, disagreement, diversity is the only path towards progress and the only guarantee for freedom.
So I think you use I'm going to throw it in there just to play devil's advocate. Abortion, for example, like obviously that's a very moral kind of thing that gets discussed. And what's your thoughts on that? Especially when Christians tend to be the only ones that seem to be vocal when it comes to being
abortion
anti-abortion.
is healthcare.
Yep.
Abortion's healthcare.
Abortion is healthcare, and healthcare should be free.
As in health and then care. So if we just merging those two words together, literally, you're saying that it's beneficial for the health, and also it's caring. Yeah, so health.
It is caring for their health. Yes, it is caring for the health of the person with the uterus who is currently pregnant.
Right. Okay. So this is interesting. So, how many abortions were in America last year? How many abortions took place in America last year? Do you know?
Couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I could tell you, however, that you mentioned that this is something that only Christians are loud about. That is also a recent development. Catholics and evangelicals specifically used to be very, very vocally pro-choice because the Bible talks about that. The Bible says that you were not truly alive until after you're born, that life begins at your first breath. And also they were very strongly for bodily autonomy. It is only after a right-wing political lobby started pressing on religion this way that it now switched and has become, in the last, I believe, 40 years, a major religious issue for right-wing Christians. What were you saying, John?
I looked it up real quick on Google. According to the Guttmacher Institute, an estimated 1,038,100 abortions were provided in the U.S. in 2024.
Right, that's just the U.S. alone, so we're not talking about worldwide here. Okay, so
nope.
All right,
millions. We can say millions.
Okay, millions. There's millions. Right. Okay. So, what do we think has led up to the reasons why these abortions took place?
I don't
Lots
care.
Of things. Yeah, I don't care, and also there would be a tremendous amount of reasons.
No, hold on a second. It's a fair question that I've asked you, because I think this ties back.
Hold on. Regardless of how fair the question is, what we're trying to tell you is that it does not matter whatsoever what reason a woman has to seek health care, or a person that's pregnant has to seek health care. It doesn't matter. It does not matter why they went. No, it doesn't. Does it matter the reasons why you went to the emergency room for a broken fucking arm? Like, does that matter?
I don't think that's the same.
Is it a fair question to be like, what were you doing when you broke your arm?
I don't think that's a good analogy, breaking an arm compared to an abortion. I think those two are quite different.
I'm saying, no, I mean,
I know you're very, obviously you guys are very articulate, very smart, intelligent men, but I don't think that's the best analogy there.
You fooled. No, but that's the thing. If you have cancer treatment, or if you have diabetes treatment, or if you have a broken limb that you need treated, or if you have a headache that you need treated, if you have anything from a hangnail to a car accident and everything in between, if you need health care, it doesn't matter what your reasons are, you deserve health care.
Now, so somebody didn't mean to listen to what we're saying, and somebody didn't mean to break. Somebody didn't mean to get cancer, and somebody didn't nobody meant to get their arm broken either. So that would then logically conclude that people didn't mean to get pregnant either.
Oh, fucking God! Are you seriously going here?
That's a ridiculous thing to pull out of what we just said. So let me be even more clear. Let me be even more clear, Stephen. If that's the direction you want to go with it, which is silly as shit, let me take it one step further. If you, Stephen, today wake up and decide to start stabbing yourself in the leg for no fucking reason, but because you just felt like it and you did it deliberately, you should go to the doctor and get that shit stitched up. And I'm not going to say that you did it to yourself and it's your fault or anything like that. Whether it's intentional or not, whether it's planned or not, whether anything, it doesn't matter. If somebody is pregnant and they don't want to be anymore, they should have access to that health care.
I know you guys are better at debating than I am, so let's just get one thing clear here. Do you, as you're saying these things, do you already know potentially the flaws in what you're saying in terms of, because you'll come to a very quick conclusion just to shut the conversation down. Are you doing it because you might know what I potentially might be coming back with and how I might tie that into morality?
I am giving you straightforward answers. I'm not trying to shut your conversation down. I'm trying to avoid any stupid loopholes.
Well, no, because I think there are loopholes, and so you may call them stupid, but I think there are loopholes here, and I want to be able to...
I didn't call you stupid. I called the loopholes stupid.
Yeah, sorry, my apologies. Can I flesh these out a little bit? Are you willing to hear what... And if you want to pull me up,
but can I? Yeah. Well, hold on. Before you move on to that, I do want to say something right here. I first saw your the point that you were trying to make. It felt like you were trying to go to the direction that anybody that gets pregnant knew that they could get pregnant or were trying to get pregnant, or like it's somehow their choice to have unprotected sex or sex where they would get pregnant. That's where it seemed like you were going, at the shithead position to go, because I feel like even you know about rape, even you know about how women are violated on a daily basis, and they do not choose to get pregnant in those situations. So regardless of how somebody becomes pregnant, regardless of how somebody becomes pregnant, they deserve health care.
That's exactly.
I'm going to meet in the middle with you. I think, because this is where I think logic should really kind of win here, okay? At the end of the day, because we talked about the millions, and this is just in the US alone, okay? If we're going to really go down the road where we are going to say that out of those millions of people that had an abortion in the US alone, if we're going to work on the percentage of how many of those were out of rape and how many of those were out of rare medical emergencies where if the abortion
doesn't matter.
And then hear me out, please. Well, I think it does, because I think that's a lot of abortions.
I don't really give a fuck. I mean, at this point, I really don't give a fuck, man.
Well, I give a fuck, because clearly, as a society, if we want to flourish, because obviously you're going to go the humanist, secular route, because that's progress, surely we need to tackle, why are there millions of abortions taking place? You can't just turn around and say, I don't give a fuck. Because
I don't give a fuck how many. Have 2 million abortions. Have 3 million abortions. I really don't give a fuck, Stephen.
You're talking about progress, yes? So progress, surely we want to be able to bring that number down, yes? Would it be logical?
No, Stephen,
we can't avoid abortion. Abortion will always happen. We know that. Okay, we know abortion. It's there to stay. Can we bring it down, gentlemen?
Yes, we can. Stephen, here's the problem. Here's the problem. Stephen, oh my God. Stephen, yes, we can bring it down, and I'm going to tell you how in just a second. The problem is, the reason why we keep interrupting you and keep having this hang up is because you continue to approach this conversation from the framework that abortion is this horrible, undesirable thing that nobody should want. And like, that's simply not, I want people to have access to abortion. I don't care whether they're sad about it, happy about it, whether they just woke up one morning and were like, fuck yeah, abortion. I don't care. I want them to have access to it, and I want it to be free. I'm all about free healthcare. Abortion is very clearly healthcare. More importantly, it is protecting someone's bodily autonomy. I think it's a good, safe, healthy, natural, normal, good thing that should be protected by our society. So yes, if you want to bring abortion numbers down, there are ways to do that, but it's imperative that you understand that you are coming from a completely different angle than us when you were talking about abortion, because you are immediately seeing it as this negative thing that we have to get rid of in any way that we can try to find a way to get abortion numbers down. I'm not there with you. Now, as far as trying to reduce abortion numbers, I would tying in, like saying unwanted pregnancy numbers that come down, because the main bulk of abortions, because of unintended pregnancy, because of rape, incest, whatever, those down to bring down. Let's work on bringing those down. The abortions that are a result of medical necessity, somebody who's later in pregnancy and has a major complication, either with themselves or with their the fetus or whatever it may be, those things we're never going to fix. Those are natural parts of being pregnant. Those are the risks and complications that come along with that. So that's not something to fix. In terms of unintended pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy, teen pregnancy, those things, sure, we can bring those down. And you know how we do it? We do it with comprehensive sex education, access to contraception, and destigmatization of sex. By doing those things, we see abortion numbers drop dramatically. When people have comprehensive education about sex, active access to contraception, and they're not shamed for sexual behavior, and they don't have Christians outside the abortion clinic cheering at them, chanting at them, yelling at them, telling them that they're murdering a baby, then abortion numbers go down quite a bit. When women are empowered to control their own bodies, abortions go down quite a bit. When divorce is allowed, abortions go down quite a bit. All of these things that empower people to have better responsibility and accessibility to healthcare and better power and control over their own bodies, that is what brings those numbers down. Same exact thing, by the way, with sexually transmitted infections and teen pregnancy. What does not work is any kind of ban, regulation, restriction, shaming, or religiosity. There is no evidence that shows those things work. In fact, it makes those things worse.
Well, I think there are two scenarios, and maybe a third. If you can give me a third, that's fine. I reckon there are certain circumstances where, at the end of the day, it cannot be helped. Okay, if somebody has been, again, I mean, someone's been raped, then of course, then if and there are some women out there who choose to keep the child and give it up for adoption, and we can probably look at that and think, that's maybe fair play. That may be a moral thing that they've done on that occasion. They don't have to, and no way should a society force. It depends on how. If it's been a horrific event, they may 9 times out of 10, I'm sure they do. They choose to wish to get an abortion, and I'll 100% support them on that, because at the end of the day, that it's a horrific event, and they don't like the idea. Some people may decide to give up the child for abortion. I mean, there's literally millions of families out there who would do anything for a child, and I'm just putting it out there. If there was something in place where the option was given, the child is born, and then that child gets to live a life. They don't even need to know that they were born out of rape. They've just been given up for adoption, and the family who gets given that child doesn't necessarily need to know that the child was born out of rape either. But that's a child gets to live a life, and the person who was raped in that scenario, not judging their decision, if that's what they choose to do, that's great. But that should not be encouraged as a moral good, nor should it ever be enforced as the only way to do that. You agree with me on that, right? Yeah, I agree. Not being encouraged, not being encouraged, not being enforced.
So Stephen, sorry for interrupting. I took something differently out of that than what Forrest did. What I got out of that was that you would force somebody to have a baby.
100%. No, I wouldn't force. I don't know if you heard what I just said towards the end there. I think because obviously abortion is so prevalent, and I wouldn't go necessarily say it's easy, but in terms of ease of access, yes, but in terms of it's just the norm these days that people know that that's something that they can just go and do straight away, be done with it.
Right. Okay, Stephen, you're very long-winded. Yeah. Hold on, Stephen. I just want to get clarification on something. Do you think that an abortion should ever be denied? Like, if somebody wanted an abortion, do you think that there's a context a situation where denial is appropriate?
I can lead to that in a moment, and because I think if you try and if you're going to get me to answer that now, no, hear me out. The reason, no, hear me out.
Yes. No,
hear me out.
That's a yes, because you're like,
No,
I gotta
brilliant.
contextualize
No,
it so I don't seem shitty.
Brilliant. No, awesome. No, I love it. Yeah, that's fine. You know, got me in a corner there, lads, haven't you? Got me in a corner there. But hear me out, okay? Let's focus on the millions of abortions that took place, the rare ones, which are down to rape and medical emergencies. I cannot see, and obviously if you can try and pull the statistics up, that'd be great. But I cannot foresee a scenario where out of those millions, half of them, say 500,000, is based out of people being raped and people having medical emergencies. Okay.
Why does it matter?
If we're collectively working together to try and figure out how to bring these numbers down,
Stephen, the reason why this is fuck, man, it's just what it sounds like you're about to say, and I just don't want to wait 20 minutes for you to say it. What it sounds like you're about to say is that, sure, the rape and the medical emergency stuff, those we can't help and those should be blah, blah, blah. However, there is X percentage of them that are just unnecessary and unreasonable, so we should try to stop those. And we're going to say, I just gave you several ways you can stop those by giving people bodily autonomy, giving people health care. And then you're going to say some collection of noises that ends with, and that's why we should be banning rape or banning abortion in these cases. People should not be allowed to have abortions in these cases.
Abortion. I'm not saying we should ban abortion. I think abortion, in some ways, I understand. Probably there is. If it's a medical emergency.
Can you answer John's question?
Sorry, what was John's question? Sorry.
So then, can you answer John's question? Is there ever a context in which you think someone should be denied an abortion?
I believe that. Okay. Yes.
Okay, that we disagree.
You want to force somebody to have a child. No, that's what it resolves. Okay.
Do you know there are hardly any? Do you know there are hardly any Down syndrome? Been literally pretty much zero births of people with Down syndrome in Finland. I believe it's Finland.
I don't give a fuck. I don't know why this matters. No. I just want you to acknowledge. Hold on. I need you. Okay, part of my ADHD just needs you to acknowledge the fact. No, Stephen, I need you to acknowledge the fact that you've said that, yes, I think in some situations, there are some contexts in which forcing a woman, a person, to give birth is appropriate. Do you acknowledge Finland, that you're saying that?
In Finland, I'm thinking if someone.
Oh my God!
It's appropriate in Finland, y'all.
Exactly. I'm trying to answer your question. Yeah. So.
Would you? Finland, hold on. Would you? Hold on, Stephen. Would you force an 11-year-old girl to have a child?
You always use the most rarest of things just to try and back up your claim.
This is unfortunately
not rare.
It's ridiculous. It's funny. Come on. It's just. I mean, I am actually laughing here. I mean, it's just like you're using the most rarest.
I'm not trying to make you laugh, or I'm not trying to do anything to make you laugh or anything. This is a real situation that's happened in what was it? Indiana, Illinois, one of those I states. It's something that really happened. An 11-year-old girl was raped by an uncle or something like that, and then she had to go to a completely different state in order to get an abortion. Now, I get that this falls in that narrow margin that you're saying is like an appropriate time to give an abortion, but I'm talking about let's just say a girl quote unquote, and because I know how you're probably thinking, quote unquote, willingly has sex and gets pregnant, right? Mm-hmm. That's not a thing that happens, but for the purposes of this thought experiment, we're going there. Let's just say she willingly does it. You think that an 11-year-old girl should be forced to give birth to a child?
No, I think I didn't bring up any age in my example earlier on. But if there was a situation,
I'm not basing it on age.
Yeah, no, I'm not basing it on age. I didn't bring up age earlier on. You know that, guys.
Steven, I'm not basing it on age. I'm not saying because she's 11, she deserves to have like an abortion or she is going to have an abortion. I'm saying that in this particular instance, following your particular criteria, you have said that there's a portion of the population that should be forced to have a child. Part of that population would be 11-year-old girls that in your particular view would quote unquote choose to have sex and get pregnant.
If I started off my conversation earlier on by explicitly mentioning such a young age and then following it up with they should be forced, I think clearly that I wouldn't be getting off to a good start.
So then why don't you enlighten us? Tell us.
I would agree with you. If an 11-year-old girl was raped, I think under the circumstances, because of how traumatic that is. Because I'm a different breed. I'm not your typical. So
Stephen, just to clarify.
So then, yeah.
Oh my God,
just to salvage you a little bit there, Stephen. Would you say that there's like an 11-year-old girl just simply without any kind of clarification or not clarification, but without any stipulations, they would like that 11-year-old child would not be able to consent to sex?
Well, of course not. And I also believe an
11-year-old would be raped, right? Under your idea?
I also think it wouldn't make much sense for anybody to sit down, an adult to sit down with that child and say, look, I think, there are a couple of options here, I think that's a bit stupid as well. I think under the circumstances, I think an abortion sounds like the most morally right choice under the circumstances. I don't think it would make much sense. Common sense.
So then can you
not fail there? Doesn't
can you please enlighten us then, if we can agree that that's bad? Yep. What is the line then where you say, okay, now in this situation, now I think it is appropriate to force someone to be pregnant and give birth to a child? What is the situation in which you think it's appropriate to force someone to be pregnant?
I tried to use one example. So we've seen a lot of I know them, I've seen them, I've met them. I've seen them, they work perfectly fine. In fact, I think the world would be a better place if there was more of these children and people, because I think they're wonderful people and they're harmless. People with Down syndrome, okay? Lovely human beings. They can still crack on with life, and great progress in scientific progress has allowed them to live a lot longer lives than they used to. We see them in America, we see them in the UK, we see them in most places in the world. But in Finland, for example, supposedly I would imagine a very atheist, progressive, humanist country, they still, and I believe it is Finland, there is pretty much 0 Down syndrome kids, because when it gets detected earlier on that their child has Down syndrome, they are pretty much encouraged or pressured to go have an abortion. Do you think that sounds right?
So you think
that sound like a moral thing to do? Because
you think because you don't like the way that some people are choosing to use abortion, you think that it is appropriate to force people to be pregnant against their will?
Not against their will, but they're obviously being pressured to have a different alternative.
It is absolutely against their will. If they want to have an abortion and you're saying no, then you are forcing them to be pregnant against their will. So at the end of the day,
we've got a society here where it's so normal to do that. It's just second nature now to them. It's like, oh, your child's got Down syndrome, let's go and book you an appointment next week to have an abortion. Like, they don't even really have a choice. I mean, it's a social.
So you're saying,
sort of, thing that's encouraged.
Stephen, that's not the question you were asked. You were not asked, should people be pressured or not? You were asked, when is it appropriate to force someone to be pregnant, to deny them access to abortion? And this was the answer you gave. This was the example you came up with, is that in this scenario, too many people are having abortions because they see a Down syndrome child, and so we should take away their right to have an abortion. And now you're pivoting and saying, no, they just shouldn't be pressured. I agree they shouldn't be pressured, but they should have the right.
Well, what you're so fixated on rights in terms of the actual individual's rights. I'm talking about a moral right here. So we can use the word right, but let's use it in a moral context. You're so fixated on individual rights here. You're not thinking about the actual bigger picture here. We're looking at a society that seems in Finland that over decades has made it completely normal for people when they're pregnant, not through rape or anything else. They probably even wanted to have a family. Obviously, it's just a normal occurrence of two consenting adults having sex, and it results in that woman getting pregnant. And then when that woman, when they found out that that woman's got Down syndrome, it's something that's sort of embedded into the psyche of how that society works, that they think is totally normal and acceptable for them to have an abortion. That Down syndrome is like almost like it's going to be a problem for their society.
And so we're going to ask again, is your solution to that to deny someone access to abortion because you suspect that they're doing it because they don't want to have a child with Down syndrome?
Just because they have Down syndrome. Because we've clearly seen today in the 21st century... I'm asking you a specific question. Stephen, nobody is arguing with you about whether or not the life of a child with Down syndrome is fruitful or worth it or any of the... I'm asking you, are you then suggesting that we should deny people access to abortion if we suspect that they are getting an abortion to avoid having a child with Down syndrome? If the situation is where the person who instigates it, okay, so the woman...
That is a yes or no question.
No, it's not a yes or no question because it's a very deep question. It's not simple.
I'm asking you, in this scenario, do you deny someone access to abortion? That is a yes or no question. Someone comes into the abortion clinic and they say, I'm pregnant and I suspect that my child will have Down syndrome. Therefore, I would like to have an abortion. You have a big red stamp and a big green stamp, and you can either say yes or no. Do you think that person should be denied access to abortion because of the reason why they're getting it? Yes or no?
We are envisioning a situation where someone walks in and I'm standing there with a stamp. So that's how stupid it is, right? So
I'm trying to make it as simple as possible so you can quit dodging the question. Because you keep fucking bitching out of the answer that you walked yourself into. I'm trying to make it very simple so that you can't dodge it anymore.
An answer which basically is in your favor. That's what it is.
No, I don't. I just want you to be fucking honest. I just want you to give me an honest answer.
I'll be fucking honest with you, okay?
Yes or no, Stephen?
Listen to me. If someone walks in and says, I want to have an abortion, and I say, why? Because surely they must still ask that, even in abortion clinics. They'll just say, yes, of course, sir. Yes, sorry, not. Yes, of course, madam. Let's just go and get you booked in. They must.
Oh, my fucking God.
Be people that go and ask why. Do people ask why?
Can you just tell me the fucking answer?
I'm asking you a question. When someone walks into an abortion clinic, I want an abortion. Do they ask that woman why?
They probably do for epidemiological reasons. Nothing matters. I wouldn't ask them why on a moral basis. That doesn't matter. I am now asking you if this person told you that they're having an abortion to get rid of the possibility of a Down syndrome pregnancy. Would you deny them access to abortion or fucking not, Stephen?
I would turn around and say to him, and obviously not just my own personal opinion, because obviously it needs to be a collective agreement within the clinic, right?
Oh my God.
Turns around and says, just listen to me, will ya?
Just answer. It's a one-word answer.
I will fucking answer, you twat.
Shut fucking, no, John. John, hold on. Just Stephen, shut the fuck up. John, if someone comes in, if you're managing a convenience store and someone comes in to try to buy beer and you find out they're under the age of 21, would you sell them beer?
Fuck no.
Yeah, he would. Nobody would, wouldn't he?
Simple answer. Yeah. Simple answer. See that? He was presented with an immoral situation, and he said no. It's really easy. So now, Stephen, if someone came into the abortion clinic that you're running for whatever fucking reason and said, I want to have an abortion because I don't want a child with Down syndrome, would you allow them to have the abortion or not?
I would say probably no.
Okay, then you just said the thing that we spent 20 minutes.
Didn't we?
No, Stephen, you self-important fuck. Pay attention. 20 goddamn minutes ago, 20 fucking minutes ago, we suggested that you would. I'm just going to put you on mute because you can't shut the fuck up. 20 goddamn minutes ago, we accused you of wanting to force someone to be pregnant against their will. And you said, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. What a despicable situation. Oh, how could you accuse me of such a thing? And now here we are, where after fucking we pulled hen's teeth to get there, you finally admit that if someone came in wanting an abortion for a reason that you deem distasteful, you would then say, no, you are not allowed to have access to this healthcare. You are not allowed control over your own body. You are forced to be pregnant. Can you, for a fucking second, just own up to the fact that that is your actual goddamn position?
All right, am I unmuted now?
Yes. Answer the question.
I will answer the question. In that scenario, I would say no.
I just recited that to you. The question I just asked you. The question I just asked you, Stephen. The question I just asked you, Stephen, is do you now finally agree with what we said 20 minutes ago? You're still talking, and this is why you don't know what the question is. Do you now finally agree with what we said 20 minutes ago, which is that by your view here, what you're saying is that you would force people to be pregnant against their will in certain situations based on your morality?
Based on my morality? What, so you and I don't share that morality then?
No, we don't. I think that as we spent 20 minutes explaining at the beginning, I think that anybody who wants an abortion for any reason should have access to that health care. They should be allowed to get that abortion. There should not be a question as to why to qualify them for the care. There should be a question as to why for epidemiological reasons, for data tracking, for all sorts of other reasons. But there is no way in hell that I would ever support a qualification exam to get access to health care of any kind. You cannot say you don't want to get an abortion for the reason that I want you to, therefore you don't get it. That's not appropriate. I don't support that at all. You do. You are saying that if someone wants an abortion for a reason you don't like, then they shouldn't get it.
That's a moral line in there, in place. There has to be something.
No, there doesn't. The moral line, Stephen, is that they should have access to health care.
Right. Okay. I would actually say that out of those millions of abortions, I would say a good percentage of those are also down to female infanticide.
Oh my God, dude! Yes. First of all, no, that's not infanticide. And second of all, yes, gender.
We're talking about certain scenarios where we may need to turn around and say to that person, "I'm sorry, but I don't think it's right in this situation to grant you an abortion because we need to get down to the fact as to why they get an abortion."
I don't know how to make it any more clear to you. We have explained this a dozen times, and you keep running your head against the same brick wall as if it's going to break this time, and it fucking won't. We don't think there's any qualification for abortion. You should be able to get an abortion if you want an abortion, period. The moral line for us is bodily autonomy. You're allowed to decide what happens to your body. You're allowed to decide who gets to use your organs to survive. You're allowed to decide who lives in your uterus. You're allowed to decide what happens to your body. That's the moral line. Saying that abortion should be restricted in any capacity for any reason is violating that moral principle. So no, we don't think that there should be any case in which someone comes in and says, I want to have an abortion because I just fucking feel like it, and this is my third one this week, and I love abortions. They're tons of fun. I just love having abortions. It's my favorite pastime. I want to have another abortion today. I don't fucking care. You're getting an abortion because you want one. It's the same thing as a tattoo or a piercing or any other thing that deals with your bodily autonomy. If you want to do something to your body, you should be allowed to do it.
Have you seen how because you've had constant debates about this topic, you've almost sort of desensitized and dehumanized the situation to the point where it's so all these analogies that you guys use just to try and
hold on, Stephen. I have to start
the most human part.
Yeah, so sorry, Stephen. I've muted you. I've muted you. The only person that's dehumanizing individuals is you. We are humanizing individuals. considering the human right to health care. That's what we're doing. You're the one that's dehumanizing people. You're the one who's wanting to force people to have babies when they obviously don't want to. You're the one that's passing some kind of judgment on people based on the reasons why they're pregnant. We don't give a fuck why they want an abortion. We just think that they deserve health care. So you're unmuted now. Don't try to gaslight us on this.
Gaslighting you is obviously this is a very heated debate, and obviously both of us are going to, all three of us are going to raise our voices and talk over each other.
It doesn't have to be. The only reason why John and I are raising our voices is because you refuse to answer a straightforward question.
And would you say this is a very important topic that needs to be debated?
Yes, because there's a lot of places around the world that think like you do, that certain aspects of healthcare should be restricted based on some sort of bullshit moral test.
Right. Now, you could have just answered that as yes, but you followed it up, and that's all I'm doing as well. I'm giving you an answer, but then
yes, but I gave you a one-word answer first and then elaborated.
Right.
When we asked you, do you think it's appropriate to force someone to be pregnant against their will, went on some bullshit diatribe about Down syndrome kids in Finland in order to get to the point that eventually, yes, you do think that people should be forced to be pregnant against their will if they disagree with Stephen's sensibilities.
Now, the thing, what I would say is the way you're wording it clearly is going to basically make me feel like if I answer that question, it's going to sound ridiculous. By giving you a yes or no,
ridiculous. You should feel ridiculous.
Okay,
maybe you have a ridiculous answer.
Do you think okay, all right. Then. So, would you say that it sounds ridiculous if there are if there was a humanist society or a secular society, it doesn't have to be Christian or religious or anything, society, but they've made it their decision to say, look, we're going to try to reduce the numbers of pregnancies down. Okay, abortions down. So I got my words wrong there. We're going to try to reduce the amount of abortions that take place. The way we're going to do that is by not just letting anybody come in, no questions asked. I know there's going to be certain questions, obviously, like you talked about, but obviously we need to get, as a collective society, we need to get to the bottom as to why there have been so many abortions taking place. Now, we need to ask some certain questions, okay? Surely that's the only way you can do it, to get to the bottom and try to reduce the numbers down. I know you talked about it earlier on, about certain ways we can do it. But if people are going in there, left, right, and centre, getting abortions, and I'm using Finland as an example again, because society has told them that as soon as they realise that their child has got Down syndrome, they should just go have an abortion. Okay? They don't even have a choice in some respects. It's just literally ingrained in them. So I think as a society, that should not be pressured for them to get an abortion just because their child has Down syndrome. Okay? If someone's got a rare medical emergency, then I think, yeah, of course, that's going to put the mother life in danger. So yes, they should get an abortion, because that mother can then live and she can have another child another time. So I believe that abortion should take place when somebody has a rare medical emergency and the mother's life is in danger. I believe that abortion can take place when it's a young child who has no idea of how to make anything of that situation, and no adult should sit down and try to convince a child to keep that baby and give it up for adoption. I reckon if that child is so young and such an horrific situation, then I think yes, an abortion also seems like the logical thing to do. Okay, so I've used 3 examples there that I believe that in those situations, at least the first 2, abortion should take place. And I think when someone has Down syndrome, their society should not be forcing them to have an abortion just because that child has Down syndrome. Okay, I don't think there's any logical flaws in what I said.
So you again, getting back to it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, if you want to say something, you can. I just really quickly want to just recap the fact that we just deliberately didn't cut you off. We let you say your whole fucking piece. And what you said was, What if there was a secular society that wanted to bring abortion numbers down because you said that we can bring abortion numbers down and you gave some thing? But what if there was this society and people were just having all these abortions? Because you see, the thing about abortions is that there's people have them for all these different reasons. And I think that in these cases, they're good. But if there was, I won't say Finland again, but if there was the Down syndrome thing that I was talking about in Finland, then I think there shouldn't be societal pressure. But at the end of the day, there's this other thing that could account for it. And you just said nothing. You said everything you've said already 3 times this whole call. You started with a question, didn't answer with didn't finish it with a question, started by opening a question, said a bunch of shit that you've already fucking said, and ended back on the same obfuscation that you landed on before, which is avoiding the fact that you want to deny access to abortion under certain circumstances. What the fuck was the point of that entire fucking monologue, dude? John, what were you saying?
I was going to say the same thing. I was we're coming directly all the way back full circle to you want to force people to have children, like against their will.
No. See, I disagree with that. So I gave some examples of when.
Hold on. Okay, I get that you want to disagree with it. I get that you want to disagree with it. But you did say it. If somebody comes in asking like, "Hey, I need an abortion," and you're gonna be like, "No, you don't get an abortion because I don't like the reason why you need an abortion," then you're literally telling that person, "I'm gonna force you to have a child you do not want. I'm forcing you to have a child." That's what you're telling that person.
Well, okay. So what are the so this gets to the crux of the matter. So rather than we're going full circle here, like you said, okay. So we've obviously established some scenarios where we may agree on it. I like to hope that we could agree on it. That there are some scenarios where maybe actually an abortion probably either is the right thing to do, and I believe that's either a young child that's been raped. Yes, I think
we know you think you said it 80 times.
I'm going to meet in the middle here. Okay, I do apologise if I have.
There's no middle. There's no middle for us.
We just try and clear our thoughts and what have you. So I do apologize.
Stephen, are you about to ask us are you about to give us a specific situation or set of situations and ask us whether or not we'd be okay with abortion in those situations?
No, of course I understand. You believe that abortion should be no matter what. Doesn't matter what, anything goes.
Yes.
Right? So
do you disagree? Yeah, okay, that's perfect. Do you disagree with that position that abortion should be accessible no matter what?
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay, so you don't agree that abortion should be accessible no matter what. So you do believe that there are certain situations in which someone should be denied access to abortion. That should also be a yes, because it's the exact same question, just in different words, just to make sure we're on the same page.
I think there are some scenarios where I think ultimately I do believe that.
If someone wants an abortion, does that mean that they want to be pregnant anymore or not?
Well, they don't want to be pregnant anymore. Clearly, yes.
Right. If someone wants an abortion, does that mean they want to have that child or not?
Of course not.
Okay. So then, just logical syllogism here, right? Okay. If someone doesn't want to be pregnant and you think there are certain situations in which you can deny them access to the thing that stops them from being pregnant, then you want to force people to be pregnant in certain circumstances. That's what we keep saying, and that's what you keep denying and then repeating. If someone wants to be get an abortion to stop having a child, and you say no, then you are forcing that person to have a child they don't want to have. That is the problem that we have with your statement. Do you get it now?
Right. I get it now, finally. I shouldn't have been drinking earlier on.
I agreed. Thank you so much. After an hour and 15 minutes, we finally fucking got there. I don't see a point in continuing because holy shit, it is difficult to get you to answer a simple yes or no question.
I think we made some inroads here, and I don't think, so I'm quite happy to just a few more minutes.
I'm sorry. No, we didn't. We didn't make any kind of inroads because we started. No, listen. As far as the abortion topic goes, we started with you want to force people to have babies or to be pregnant, and we ended with You want to force people to be pregnant.
We
didn't get anywhere. David, we didn't get anywhere.
An hour.
I think the point I was trying to make was,
we got you to agree with your own position after an hour. Those were the inroads we made, Stephen.
Can I just do you want to give me 3 minutes to conclude and you can end the call if that's okay?
No, I don't. Because every time we let you speak, you say the same thing.
Come on, for your cousin across the pond. Come on now.
You're not. No, you're just wasting everybody's time, dude. You said the same thing 80 times.
I'm sure the chat's loving it because most, come on.
The chat wants to hang you.
They're lamenting right now.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to move on to the end of the show. Your position sucks, and you should feel bad about it. And I think we're done with the conversation, man. If you want to call back another time, please do, and we'll talk about something else for an hour, and maybe we'll get you to agree to one fucking thing that you already agreed to in that hour. It'll be a wild ride. Maybe I'll start drinking too. I think that you're amusing yourself and not anybody else. We're going to go. Thank you very much, Stephen.
All the best. You take care, guys.
God damn.
Oh my glob. An hour just to get him to say, yes, I do believe the thing that I've repeatedly said that I believe. Great.
Yeah. The thing you said at first, the thing you claimed that I said, I actually said and agreed with.
Oh
we made progress.
I feel like I've aged. I feel like I'm older now. God. While we were on that call, we had two other callers that I was trying to end with. We had Nicola, who is a theist, who wanted to. It said, "I want to defend my belief in God on Easter Sunday." Sorry, we didn't get to you, Nicola. I don't know if you dropped or if our call screen dropped. I think you dropped though because you were bored of waiting. We also lost the one that I really wanted to end the show on, which was an atheist named Trent, who was waiting for over an hour and a half to give the context under which slavery is acceptable. He's an atheist calling in to say that there are certain contexts under which slavery is acceptable. Waited for almost 2 hours and then hung up during Stephen's call, probably to go stab his own eyeballs out after listening to Stephen. Trent, if you're out there and listening, go fuck yourself. Call back in sometime. That was the show. John, do you have anything to wrap us up with?
I've got plenty of stuff coming out this week on my channel. I'm trying to get some stuff prepared for my vacation and everything. So just be on the lookout there. Yeah, I'm just working on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've got a video coming out this month as well, probably towards the end of the month. I'm about to be in Canada for We Can Reason. Yes. Is that right? I think so. Western Canadian Reason Conference. I think that's what's coming up. What am I doing? Yes. Yeah, that's the beginning of Canada. We got that coming up. Then I'm going to be in Borneo for a while. Then I'm going to be at the Freedom for Religion Foundation in the Ozarks. And then I'm going to be at Baja Con. Then I'm going to be at Dragon Con. And then I'm going to be in Germany and Austria. The Borneo trips are closed. We're not selling any more tickets because they got filled up and we were too close to the deadline. However, there are still tickets available to go to Germany and Austria with me. So if you want to do that, sign up for that. Go to valkailabs.com/links and find that. Yeah. What's up?
Yeah. So I'm actually talking at the Ark Encounter protest or the Ark. Yeah. The Ark protest in July. And then on the other end of July, I'm actually going to be on a panel at NanoCon. And then I'm also going to be at Baja Con. So I'll see you there at Baja Con.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Go to valkailabs.com to see my whole touring schedule and sign up for all those things. Go see John wherever John's trolling about. Come say hi to us because, let me tell you, we are on the internet for a living and we're in front of almost 2,000 people right now that are watching. And it feels like I'm sitting in my office talking to a camera. It's weird. So come see us in person because it's very meaningful and it really makes us smile to get to see everybody and shake your hands and give you hugs and sign autographs and take pictures and all that shit that actually makes us feel like we have some sort of human connection with people. It's awesome. With that, unless you have anything else, I think that's about time to wrap up the show. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't have anything else.
Thank you to Stephanie Helms, our call screener tonight. Thank you to Amargan, our producer tonight. Thank you to all of our mods in chat. Thank you to all of our callers, even the ones that suck. Thank you to all of our people in the chat, even the ones that suck. Thank you to Faye Halo for doing the timestamps. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome rest of your day, and never stop learning. See you